Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast. I am your host, Chris, and today I have Alex Jones. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. I've got a beer, so I'm happy.
You got a beer. And today's show, well, we got a lot to talk about. We got like PlayStation. There's a new Matrix trailer.
I'm
Jonesy,
back.
Jonesy, do you hear something?
I did hear a murmur of something. I thought it was you. Is it not your stomach?
Guys, it's me. I'm Jamie. I'm the other guy. I do this thing with you. I'm back this week.
He's returned.
That's actually killed me. I was hoping to keep it going a bit longer, but he goes, "It's me. It's Jamie.
It's me.
It's honestly like a 4-year-old child. He like believes that we've kind of.
That's because you guys were giving me PTSD. It was like my childhood. It was like watching my dad go out for cigarettes.
It's me. It's Jamie. I've come home.
I like it. Yeah, you should turn that into a song, Jamie. Somebody ought to tune that. Come on. Anyway, fellas, welcome, one and all. And Jamie, welcome back. You're looking very sprightly, I must say.
Thank you. I've had about twice as much sleep in the last week as I think I had in probably the 3 to 4 weeks before that. So feeling fresh-faced and ready to rock and roll. Ready to talk about video games, Chris.
That's good, because guess what? You're on a gaming podcast, apparently, some might say, as Alex Jones opens up his can. No, it was you, Jamie.
It was
you
me.
scumbag.
I did it between my, right in front of my
Bull.
balls, so no one would notice, but it got picked up by the mic.
I like it. Or maybe not, maybe the sound detection on Discord is different to what you were recording with, which I'm guessing is Audition.
It is.
But there we go. Fellas, I'm glad that we got a full house, because next week I am off for 2 weeks on a Greek odyssey, as it were. So,
You lucky bastard.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Yes, I am feeling pretty lucky, but we'll figure some stuff out. I did mention maybe I'll try and record a little summon for the Patreons. But anyway, fellas, fucking what a day it's been at the time of recording, which is Thursday. It's been pretty fucking mental.
Imagine if we recorded these things on a Wednesday. We'd have been sat there this time yesterday being like, shit. What do we like?
Well,
How did we miss it?
It has kind of happened to us before, hasn't it? Where it's like we released the podcast, then something else really cool happened. I think it happened once, and we did like an addendum podcast.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. I know a couple of times we've talked about something and then the news has totally changed. And it's just like, oh, well, it's done now.
Can I tell you one that happened last week, Jonesy? In fact?
Yes.
yeah, actually, your main talking point, you turned immediately.
Yeah,
oh,
basically,
of course, yes.
the Horizon Forbidden West pre-orders not getting an easy upgrade path. And probably at the time we were recording it they probably fucking pulled that U-turn and said, actually, this time we'll let it go. But going forward, fellas, no. So
Hey.
that's one thing that we can kind of look forward to, is at least a decent upgrade path for Horizon Forbidden West, but not further than that, fellas. You're going to have to pay for all those upgrades, which, you know what, I think it's fair enough, but I understand the consternation around what happened there, because, Jim Ryan was on record saying that it would be an easy path whether you get it on PS4 or PS5, so fair enough. But yeah, we obviously had a PlayStation showcase, fellas, which was fucking...
It was baller. Let's put it like that.
I finished my sentence there. It was fucking.
Oh, it was fucking.
That's what it was. It was fucking.
It was fucking. It was fucking,
fellas. If ever there was something that was fucking, that was it. But before we get into that, fellas, let's do a little bit of housekeeping, all right? If you don't mind, indulge me, okay? Because we are available on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at SuperShowPod. If you want to reach out and say, hey, some people did. In fact, LFC Belfast, shout out, messaged us about the PlayStation event, saying it was pretty baller, and I think we agree with him on that one.
We do.
We are obviously a podcasting... I was going to say we're a podcasting platform. We're not a fucking podcasting platform. We're a podcast.
Not yet.
On
Imagine.
podcasting. Yeah, not yet. Just wait. Just you wait, fellas. But as a podcast, a gaming podcast, sometimes a top 100 podcast in Ireland, for example. But we can be found on various places, such as on YouTube, if you want to watch our lovely faces while you listen to our dulcet tones. But otherwise, we're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and any other kind of like divey podcast place that you put your shades on and your hat down and pop your collar up because you don't want to be seen kind of hanging out by, I don't know, fucking iHeartRadio or something. I don't know. Is that a good one? I don't know.
No idea. Same with
Stitcher.
Yeah, I
Deezer.
don't know. No idea.
Yeah, it's a name, I guess. It probably works.
Deezer was always a weird one because Deezer is the one that they always give to you, like it gives you for free on your phone contract.
Maybe
it's like, I'm not using that.
I don't know. My phone contract, I feel like it's a little bit more highbrow than just Deezer. I wouldn't sign with any.
Apple. Well, I get Apple Music on EE, but I'm saying like Deezer was always like almost the de facto kind of like
brother
base default.
I'm living that BT sport life. You got to get on my level.
Well, I don't give a shit about sports, so I don't need to get on your level.
I could tell from your completely unathletic physique.
Wow. Jesus.
Ouch.
Okay, kettle.
Hey, have you ever seen the weightlifting at the Olympics? Those guys are kind of fat.
Have you ever seen the movie starring Keanu Reeves? Not that one. We'll talk about that one later. Called The Replacements.
No, I've not.
No, I haven't seen that either.
So it's got what's his name? Like Reese Ifans or whatever his fucking name is.
Reese Ifans.
Reese Ifans. And in it, he goes and plays American football, even though he's a traditional soccer football player. And he's really skinny, and he's like, "No, I'm wiry." And so I am wiry.
Right.
Okay, that's my physique. I'm a little bit stocky, but I'm a little bit like small and agile and streamlined. Is what it is. So
he's like a Jack Russell. He's small, stocky, but wiry and streamlined.
I am like a Jack Russell. I'll take it. Sometimes I feel more like a sausage dog, to be fair. It's kind of like my belly hanging on the ground with my tiny little legs, but there you go.
I can see that.
Don't know how we got here, but let's take it back, shall we? Because not only are we on YouTube and the various podcast platforms of your choice for this 5-star podcast, but we also are available on Paisley Radio, internet radio. If you go to paisleyradio.com, Thursdays at 10 p.m., you can listen to us in a pseudo-live environment, one where you can't fast forward, but you just have to wait to catch up. Hell yeah, baby.
Ooh.
And that is repeated on Mondays if you miss it the first time round. So there are multiple ways to get your Super Show fix. So there's no excuse, really. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your Jack Russells, and there you go. But fellas, we touched on it, right? We touched on it about the big green code in the room, as it were. Fucking there's no other way to put it. There's another fucking Matrix coming out, and it's coming out in December, and we got to see the first fucking trailer for it.
Unreal.
Well, we got to see 2 trailers. There was a trailer for the trailer 2 days before the trailer.
Well, there was a trailer for the trailer, and then you went to the website, and there were 2 different teasers. But then the teasers altered depending on like
which
how
pill
many
you
times
took, right?
Not only which pill you took, Jamie. Like the more so the way they changed it was it noticed what time you were watching it, and in those teaser trailers it'd be like, "Oh, to you it seems like a normal day. It's 1:45 p.m."
Oh,
but actually, that was.
What's funny is I watched someone rip that, and so it was like one of them said 2:15, and the other said like 2:16. So I was like, "Oh, it's like the red pill. Like is Morpheus a minute behind? Is his clock a bit slow?" I didn't realize they like dynamically changed depending on what time you watched it. That's even
pretty
cooler.
cool. But I do kind of feel bad for the dude doing the voiceover. He has to do every single fucking minute.
Yeah, but he gets paid by the word probably or the minute, so he's getting bank for doing it. Like, we need you to say every time that's possible in 24 hours, and he's just like,
yeah, maybe. But yeah, it also depending on how many times you watched it, like it cycled through a bank of clips from the film rather than saying like prescribed. I'm having a stroke. Preordained ministers of images.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with
totally.
you.
But
Reading
fuck it,
between
we
the
got
lines
the full fucking trailer, fellas, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty hot on it.
Okay, good.
I am pretty hot on it. I do. There is a small part of me that is almost like that blue pill, where it's almost like it's almost like the red pill is me fucking going down the rabbit hole and being like, I fucking love the Matrix. The world is a better place when there is a Matrix coming out. Like, I genuinely feel that way. I love the movies. I love all 3 of them, even though the last, the sequels were kind of dodgy shit. But it's also cool shit, right? Like, But there's that small part of me that takes the red pill, and it's almost like cynical about it. It's like, could it be as good as the original? Why? Like they've wrapped up that trilogy. Why they're going back to it? I'm sure they have their reasons, and I'm sure it'll be cool. With intersected with some weird shit that's probably not cool, like the fucking twin ghosts in.
Oh yeah, they were rough.
Younger me liked them, but yeah, fair enough. I'm not going to try and fight that one with you two.
Yeah, well, but then again, for every twin albino ghosts you get, you also get cake that gives women orgasms. So
right,
not just women, mate. Oh no, I was going to say Monica Bellucci, but it's not Monica Bellucci.
No,
it's
it's
a
not.
different
It's
woman.
just some random
Okay,
not to get too far ahead into the nitty gritty, but he's not in the trailer. But I think the Merovingian has been confirmed as returning, right? That actor did an interview, and
I reckon that dude in the trailer, getting ahead of us a little bit, where at the very end of the trailer, where he's kind of sat in the chair and his mouth is whatever. I reckon he's like a young Merovingian.
That's Jonathan
Neil Patrick
Groff.
Harris.
Oh no, right. Of Jonathan Groff of Mindhunter fame.
Yeah, I reckon he looks Merovingian like to me. I reckon he's a young.
It's also his hair isn't naturally black. That actor, so he's got dyed black hair for the role, which again is a bit Merovingian-esque.
I'm putting my money down now. A $5. Anyone willing to take it? But there we go. A lot of cool things. I want to hear you guys' thoughts because I just fucking love talking about the Matrix so fucking much.
I think I already got a bit of a sneak peek into some of Jonesy's thoughts, so I might jump in now because I'm actually kind of with you, Chris, in that sort of like, I feel like, if we're going to use the pill analogy, I'm holding the red pill, but I just haven't quite taken it yet, in so much as that, like, I'm getting more and more intrigued as to where the rabbit hole will take me. But it's like...
You're looking for the glass of water. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm looking around the room, I'm wondering what that mirror is.
Help me. Yeah, help me slide that pill down my gullet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there were times where, like, do you know what my first takeaway, and like to look at the trailer as a whole and to encapsulate it as to like how I felt watching it as opposed to breaking down components or scenes or shots. I remember thinking like, okay, this is cool. It's hitting a lot of the right buttons. There's like a sort of an action-y sequence in sort of about 2/3 of the way through the trailer where like there's a scene where an agent sort of goes through the door and sort of like flips as he's going through the door.
Yeah,
then they're
that was
in that
cool.
hallway and they're running on the walls of the hallway and diving out the window at the end, and that was all really cool. But there were also some shots where I'm like, I think, as Jonesy and I were kind of discussing before, I think sometimes if you take a dude who looks a little bit like Morpheus and dress him up exactly like Morpheus, he just ends up looking like a dude who's dressed up like Morpheus.
Yeah,
you know
like
what I mean?
cosplay.
It looks like a bit of a cosplay. And that actor's great. He was in the Watchmen HBO series.
He was really good in Watchmen.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that version of Morpheus, assuming it is Morpheus. I don't know. But that was like an example of the few things that gave me a little bit of pause. The other thing was like, I think it's really going to be really cool to see what Matrix-like visual effects look like in the year 2021.
Yeah.
But I hope
because they obviously like revolutionized the industry with their whole like bullet time effect, which was ripped off for like, I don't know, half a decade after the thing came out.
Yeah.
And you kind of catch a glimpse of maybe what they're doing with that, with like you mentioned, the agent going through the door and kind of flipping. So it is kind of like Inception-esque, but in its own Matrix way.
Yes, but there were a few examples of things that, not from a technical standpoint in terms of how they were handled from the visual effects side, but from an actual, creative artistic standpoint in terms of what they were going for. I thought sometimes the kind of like the borderline telekinesis elements where they're almost doing like force pushing and stuff like that looked a little bit over exaggerated for my money. In particular, that there's the way the dojo where it looks like Neo and Morpheus might fight almost like blows up and then there's this one shot where Trinity looks like she's fucking losing her head in the middle of the cafe, and it's kind of like got different versions of her split out, and I'm like, I can see why this is like a Wachowski vision done 2021, but it like didn't quite hit the nail directly on the head for me.
Yeah.
That said, net positive, cautiously optimistic, has to be a day one viewing because it's a fucking Matrix film. Like, we're getting another Matrix film. It's happening. I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah.
Really excited.
Hell yeah. And it's fucking soon, fellas. That's the best thing about it. It's fucking soon.
This might
it's not long. It's December 22nd or something, I think.
Yes.
I think
like
I have
12,
to drag
22.
myself to the cinema for this, right? Like,
Oh, let's do a boys' night, fellas.
Oh, that's such
Hell
a
yeah.
great shout. That's a great shout.
Hell yeah. I'm going to give Josie, before we move on to you, I want to give just a few more thoughts on it. Um, y- so some of the shots looked a little bit too pristine, a little bit too kind of like digital for me, if that makes sense. Like especially that opening shot of the house on the cul-de-sac and everything. It just looked like seriously fake. Maybe that's the point,
Yeah.
right? But it did kind of like lose this kind of realism, maybe, that the actual the first Matrix had, obviously being like film and digital, and it's just kind of like I wonder if there's something that's going to be a little bit lost in translation there with using too much technology and thinking that you're like being flashy about shit when maybe you shouldn't. But the other thing, and obviously like fair enough, they got time to fix, but some of the compositing shots in that trailer I thought were a bit weak. In particular, the 2 points that stood out to me was Keanu Reeves looking in the mirror, and it does that kind of like little bit of an effect to kind of show the older man.
Right.
I wasn't convinced by that effect. It just seemed like it was just poorly executed. And the other was the shot of the cop, the typical Matrix shot of the cop, and then his face kind of like morphs into an agent. That
looked kind of janky, didn't it?
That morphing looked kind of like, if you've got like Cyberpunk and you take the setting slider down to like low, that it's kind of like just a little bit blurred, and it just didn't really convince me. But like I said,
more of a fade than a morph.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some shit that I could do with like a morph cut tool in Premiere Pro. But benefit of the doubt, they'll obviously be fixing that. They for people who don't know, you do these kind of effects, you get the shots as good as they can, but you're at a time limit in terms of saying these shots need to be ready to make a trailer. While we send it to them, we'll go back to those shots and we'll keep working on them. So there is room for improvement all the time. And the other thing that I didn't like, that wasn't kind of positive to me, or let me balance it out with a little bit of positives. The action scenes look absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right? Like really fucking cool.
I mean,
like even just the fact of like young, presumably Morpheus, just kind of like walking through the hallway, just like with his guns and like just shooting like that. I was like,
anyone that holds guns like that now is just like a G.
Yeah, you know that they mean fucking business.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know what I want? I want to see that in super slow motion, and then I want to cut to a shot of the empty shell casings hitting a hard marble floor, and hear the clink clink.
But
see, you say you want that. I kind of don't want that.
No, you do, Jonesy. You do, and you want just a bass track of bring back the
90s, Jonesy. Come on.
This was one of my problems with the trailer, and not a problem, but like one thing that kind of worried me a little bit is they were doing a lot of sort of like homage to the originals, or to specific, but worryingly to specific scenes. And one of the things that kind of worried me a little bit was is this going to be a full-fledged Matrix film that could stand on its own, which is like fantastic, well written, well directed, or is this going to be a kind of like cash grab is the wrong way to put it, but is this going to be like trying to use people's memories of how good the original trilogy was, or the original film was, in order to rub that sort of like, or scratch that itch, just to get people to say, this film was great, when it's maybe not? Because the last thing we want now is, after a really good initial entry, a pretty good second entry, and a questionable third entry, I don't think.
It's
interesting
ranking there.
I don't think we want a like a bad fourth entry. I'm pretty warm on it, I'd say. I think it looked good. Like immediately when it started off, like Neil Patrick Harris, I was like, okay, this is wicked. I love Neil Patrick Harris. It's gonna.
But hold on, Jonesy. Did his glasses need to be like that blue of an acrylic? Like, yes, we know he's the fucking psychiatrist giving him the blue pills and trying to keep him under control. We will fucking get it, but like, don't fucking. It's just like shit like that. It annoys me, because it's like, that's fucking obvious,
right? Yeah,
I think
it was interesting because. Sorry, go on, mate.
I know. I was going to say, like, when speaking of obvious things, I think the cafe that they meet in is called Simulate. I'm not even joking.
Is it really?
I think there is.
That's great. There's a weird thing in that I think this could be the Matrix film with the most story, like traditionally speaking, because I think the last three films were like full of philosophy, but actually the story, when it comes down to it, was kind of pretty straightforward. Though it's like, and what they're actually doing, it's a lot of fighting,
maybe,
a lot of action, and then a lot of philosophy, and then and that covers the 3 movies. This looks like it could actually be more of like a story, and you've got Matrix, Neo's back in the Matrix. How does that work? Where's he at? What's happened since we last saw them? Where's Zion at? And all of this sort of stuff. I am a little worried though. I said to Jamie like before this that if there was one worry I would have, it was that would it have been better for them to have got like Christopher Nolan to direct this? Just so you know that even if the story side is a bit wonky, at least the direction would be on point, and you'd still end up with a cool ass film.
Well, yeah, because I mean that's the other kind of like elephant in the room, right? Where it's only one of the previously brothers, now sisters. It's only one of them.
It's
So
Lana and not Lily.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like you've only if you say that what makes the Matrix is an amalgamation of the two, and now you've taken half of it away, it's either going to be you could potentially argue it's going to be half as good or it's going to be twice as nice. Because are you getting rid of did you get rid of a bad half or did you get rid of a good half?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Jonesy.
No, I was going to say for sure. Like it's definitely a question. We have no idea, right?
I was going to say the impression I got when that was all being announced and clarified, kind of around a year ago. And again, this might have just been sort of like, smoke and mirrors to kind of keep publicity looking sweet. But it was less of like, I think that she just didn't want to do it. She just wasn't interested in like, and I think that happened not because of the Matrix. I believe I'm right in saying that happened over the course of their Netflix show Sense8, and by the time that went into its second season, she was just like, I'm not really as into making shit as I used to be. So and then that's when Lily stopped doing. No, wait, sorry. That's when Lana started doing a lot more of just directing her own.
Yeah. There's also a weird thing here in that if it's weird because if you were saying if it was like a Tarantino movie, right, then you could look back and you could say, look at all the amazing movies. Like, I'm so excited about all the movies and what's the next one going to be? It's going to be great. But then when you think about the Wachowskis' movies, it's a lot harder sell. Like, even look, you talk about the Matrix and say, oh, how incredible the Matrix was, but and I remember like with the Matrix coming out and then the Animatrix, Enter the game, Enter the Matrix, and it was the whole like ecosystem around the Matrix was incredible, and I had such a great time with all of that. And it wasn't just them; it was loads of other creatives brought on board to do like series and animated stuff, and it was wicked, and it was so cool. A standalone Lana Wachowski movie set in the Matrix universe, but like a direct sequel, I don't know, it kind of worries me a little bit because do you know what? I liked Jupiter Ascending. I didn't think it was bad. I thought Cloud Atlas was good. Again, they're all like movies grounded in like a lot of philosophy and they're trying to tell a message, but they're generally like a bit ropey on story. And they haven't come off the best when it comes to critics and people watching.
Don't you also feel that they're largely forgettable? Like
you
watch them, you'll enjoy them, but you're never like fanatical about them. Then it's not a Matrix.
So there's nothing that you it's weird because it's almost like bookends in that at least with some like other directors, you can point to multiple tentpole movies in their careers. The weird thing in this is I can look at the Matrix and say, oh, what an incredible movie. I saw it 3 times at the cinema when I was 15. I absolutely loved it. It was great. But then you then say to me, okay, what about everything else that they've made? I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then you say the Matrix 4, I'm like, yeah, Matrix, the 4th one, it's going to be amazing. But there's no grounding for that. The trailer was really cool. So I don't know.
But if you had to look at the trailer without your rose tinted glasses, I think you start worrying about some stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do you know what's ironic? If I had never seen The Matrix and I saw this trailer, I'd think, damn, that looks like a cool ass movie. Because it looks like a film about a guy who doesn't really know where he's at with his life. There's weird stuff going on, and then some crazy shit happens and what's really going on. I'm like, it's a sci-fi action shooter thriller, and it looks like totally my cup of tea. What worries me is with the knowledge I do have. Does that make sense?
I get you. But that's almost why the first Matrix was so successful, because it was exactly what you just said.
Oh, and it was so goddamn good.
But the point is, like, that movie came out and people didn't know what it was about.
No.
And nothing like it had kind of come out before from a cinematic point of view, like a cinematographical point of view, story wise, that kind of like taking high concept fucking sci-fi shit and making it mainstream. Like it fucking blew everybody away.
I first saw The Matrix growing up because my dad made me watch it because he thought it would be an important film for me to see. Now, admittedly, he also did that with Con Air, so it wasn't necessarily that, he had a specific...
What's wrong with Con Air?
Do you know what?
That would be like in the library, dude. Like Con Air, The Rock, The Matrix, fucking...
This is not a good...
Gladiator was the other one.
Gladiator, hell yeah.
I've got a question for you, though. Why didn't he just put the bunny back in the box?
That's what I want to know.
It's a very good question.
Could have solved everything, right? But yeah, like I remember going to see The Matrix in the cinema and literally knowing nothing about it other than it looked fucking cool with some cool fucking fight scenes. Keanu Reeves was in it, and like there was some kung fu. And then I went into that film, and it's like, I'll be honest with you, like I remember it clear as day when I was in the cinema watching it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like those first few minutes, like it starts off really punchy with that shit with Trinity, right? And you're like, oh fuck yeah, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like goes into like, just like
he's in the office and
and it's just like, what am I watching? But then like literally like 10 minutes later, you're like, oh fuck yeah, not like this, and it was that feeling that like I don't think I've ever had in the cinema before, where it's like I had no clue what to expect and was still fucking blown away. Sometimes I go in with no clue what to expect, and it fucking sucks.
True.
That's kind of the base level of my Hollywood experience in the past fucking decade.
One of the strange things it's going to be odd to see a Matrix film that just stands on its own, because the original was like, to be fair, they could have ended it after the first one, but it didn't solve anything. You didn't get any answers. It was Neo's liberated from the Matrix, and then he becomes super cool, and then the film ends. Like, and then it had to have, in a way, it had to have a sequel to tell the rest of the story. I still don't think it really told the rest of the story, even in the whole trilogy. But whatever. So I'm hoping that this caps it all off and gives us.
Yeah.
But then Jamie and I were talking about this before, and Jamie made a good point, which was like, it would just be that you couldn't just have this be like, oh, everything ends all happy and everyone's liberated and everyone's happy, like celebrating and cheering, because it would just be like too much.
But that's because it doesn't make any fucking point, right? Because Neo already fucking destroyed the Matrix and liberated everyone. So
no, he didn't though, did he? He didn't liberate everyone. They got rid of Agent Smith, and the Matrix still existed. There was loads of people still in it, and the machines didn't destroy Zion, but there was still millions of people in the Matrix.
Yeah, I guess so.
As far as from what I remember.
And that's where you get into like the interesting questions that I hope there are interesting answers to, which is like, why do you reopen that book? What makes this Neo that we're seeing in the trailer relevant again? What is the new threat now that, Agent Smith has been eradicated and the machines and Zion have some kind of an understanding? Is the entire liberation of the human race to Zion like still even an ambition? And if not, like, is like unplugging people from the Matrix and setting people free even a goal here? And if not, what is the goal? Is that Morpheus? And if so, why is he young when everyone else is old? There are fascinating questions to answer. And I guess what I hope, and I suppose is a natural thing to hope for, is that we're getting answers to those questions. Like, those questions are being asked because the answers are worth hearing, and not because, someone at Warner Brothers realize that if you're going to have a subscription service, content is king, and when content is king, known franchises with established fan bases are easy wins.
Okay, but I got a question for you. Okay, they are answers worth knowing, and yet they were never in the original trilogy plan. And my thinking is because those answers are unanswerable in a satisfactory way, and that's why they just didn't include them in the trilogy.
Maybe
because it's almost like how could you explain that, like, after thousands of years of fucking subjugation by the machines, and all of a sudden, because that's the thing I never fucking understood about the Matrix. Like, I totally sided with Cypher. 100%. It's like, give me a fucking good tasting steak.
What?
I don't
You can't side with Cypher.
Don't want to eat your chicken slop and live underground and shit. Like, just fucking plug me in the Matrix. cares?
See, I was more of a tank guy personally.
Yeah.
Which is ask for so much money that you actually don't come back ever again. And then, by definition, your version of the Matrix ends after the first film, and everyone's happy.
True.
I'm pretty sure that guy was like gone crazy, and now he's one of those people who's literally his life was defined by the fact that he was cut out of the Matrix and replaced.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, that's
like I think he wrote a book, and like he taught, and he's like. Is one of those crazy books where he's like, Keanu Reeves is crazy and takes cocaine every day. Yeah, so
is it called Re-entering the Matrix?
Re-entering, that's great.
The Matrix and
like
me.
That.
The Matrix in me.
Jesus.
How I unplugged myself from the worst trilogy in sci-fi history.
That's funny. Was it? Oh, it was that guy?
He's called Tank. Yeah, that's right.
Tank,
and he's
because
he's replaced by Link. I guess becomes the new Tank, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because Tank's quite important because Cypher kills Tank's brother and Tank like also nearly dies and and then Tank comes back and kills Cypher.
Yeah.
So
and
Tank,
was it believe it or not, you piece of shit, you're still gonna burn?
No, I don't believe it. That's my Cypher impression. There you go.
That's good.
I love it. It's really good.
The Matrix. Huh?
Fellas,
I've got the fucking 4K Blu-ray of the Matrix right there.
There you go.
Nice.
I got a question for you. Do you think it's gonna end on a cliffhanger like it did on that fucking like if you think what they did with the sequels, that it was like, oh, here's this fucking movie and we'll release the next one in the following year, but we are gonna end one of the biggest releases of that year on a fucking cliffhanger.
What are you talking about, the second one?
Yeah.
It literally ended on To Be Continued.
Yeah, but it was literally a cliffhanger. It was just like,
but they made them back to back though, so I think
I know, was
the
cliffhanger
was it that like basically
Agent
some
Smith
version of Agent Smith is inside Zion now? And
because that
played
guy
by
wakes
a guy
up
who looks weirdly like him but also isn't him, and it's confusing to some people.
Yeah.
But then you also had it ends right as Neo is in the real world, and then a Sentinel comes towards him, and he does this.
Oh, yeah.
And the Sentinel goes and then falls down, and then Neo faints and passes out.
It was literally that, and then it cuts to the real world Agent Smith waking up. Because remember, they were like, we found this guy from the other, was it the Osiris or whatever? And it's like, oh yeah, we found him, and he's been in this coma, and he hasn't woken up. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's fucking Agent Smith. It's just mental. And then they just like fucking, you had to wait a year. How did we live?
I didn't mind that. Like when they make a movie back to back, like for example, I'll give it like Back to the Future did the same thing.
Yeah.
The end of Back to the Future 2, like Doc gets struck by lightning right at the end of Back to the Future 2, and they'd made Back to the Future 2 and 3 at the same time, and you had to wait for like, I don't know how long it was, but until 3 came out to resolve the story. So I'm fine with that stuff.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it was amazing.
Oh, I see. But I don't know. I don't think they'll do it again. I think this is going to be it. I don't think they'll try and get another trilogy out of it.
Agreed.
Wow. You think it's a one and done?
I think it's one and done.
I think so.
Fair. Well, fellas, God, I'm so worked up. I fucking love The Matrix. It's like, hell yeah. I don't even know how to segue to it. So might be a little bit diabolical of me. But there we go. This comment of the week comes. I tried. This comment of the week comes from Diablo64, which is our main man. Well, let's just call him Diablo64, saying,
he's
"I love Snowpiercer." Yeah, he's rebranded. Although he's rebranded for a while back now.
Yeah.
And Diablo64 says, "I love Snowpiercer, even though there are some criticism for it. Love the idea of pedophile Pac-Man, though." Jamie, you listened to the podcast.
I did.
That Jonesy and I recorded. What was your take on the whole fucking...
It's perhaps like less of a take and more of a regret that I haven't actually seen Snowpiercer, so I couldn't sort of like rate Jonesy's criticism of the film against my feelings on it. But I did think that it was extremely Jonesy of Jonesy to get hung up on the nature of the ending in the way that he did, which again, I haven't seen. I'm imagining it through the way Jonesy had described it. But I can almost guarantee that if I had seen it with my own 2 eyes, I would not have like made any paedophilic assumptions about what's to come following the resolution of the film.
How can you not, as 2 people, walk off into the distance at the end of the movie?
I think I just leave it at that. I don't imagine them fucking afterwards.
No, because you have to like. Is it a happy ending? Is it happy ever after? Are they going to go on to like bigger and better things? Like I don't know.
Yeah, but
I like to think of that stuff.
Okay, are they going to go on to bigger and better things as like an open-ended question? Yeah, like fine. Are they going to have paedophilic sex en route to repopulating the Earth before they get mauled by a polar bear? I'm not going to go to that extent like you did.
Oh, you have to. You have to go to that.
You have
extent.
to. Wow. Jamie's hit the nail on the head, though. That is a very Alex Jones takeaway from the film.
Do you know what it is? I can't be happy for them. Like everyone's dead. That's the outshot of that film. Everyone's dead. The entire human race is dead, which means Captain America killed everyone. Terrible movie.
Wow, strong.
It's over.
You see, one man's hero is another man's terrorist. Just going to put that one out there.
Indeed.
Well, I am now tempted to just watch that film and then maybe treat Jonesy's review of it as like a director's commentary and have it playing underneath the last 10 minutes of the film.
Ignore what I said about the end of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the rest of it because it's
again, I haven't seen the film, so like as for like
no, I mean if you go watch it, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the rest of it.
I mean, maybe that's something I can do. Yeah.
You know, last week when I said what happens when. Well, it came up in conversation. We were saying, like, what happens if there's only one of us that is able to do the podcast in a week? And one of the comments said, oh, what you should do is just record your podcast and have the others record, like, almost like what you said, Jamie, like a commentary track on what you said. So, yeah, like, that would be cool. Like, if you watch Snowpiercer, we'll get Jonesy's thing. We'll play it back. We'll record you reacting to Jonesy's take.
I love it.
Quite funny.
It's a mediaception, which just layers on top of layers on top of layers. The more commentary, the better.
It's like a parfait. All right, fellas. It's that time of the show where, parfaits don't come cheap. And the only way that we can afford parfaits is by the generosity of our lovely patrons. That's right. If you want to head on over to patreon.com/SuperShow, you can help keep the dream alive. Keep us plugged into the Matrix so that we never have to taste that gruel that supposedly tastes like chicken, but you wouldn't know because you've never tasted chicken. That's what I'm saying. And like, I don't want to wear like jerseys with holes in them. Okay, please. I don't want to have like a blue filter over my life. I want to be in the Matrix, baby. Give me that green filter. Hell yeah. With the blonde and the red dress, please. Anyway. If you would like to support us in any way possible, head on over to patreon.com/supershow. For as little as $2, you get access to our Discord. $5 gets you access to our Patreon-only exclusives, including our, so far, only one episode of Known Murderers, the Matthew Broderick story. But we should be recording some when I get back from Greece, I'd imagine. But there's loads of other podcast stuff there, behind the scenes, etc. So go check it out.
Who's going to be the number 2, no murderer? What do you reckon?
I know who I've earmarked for mine. Jamie, do you want to mention yours?
I don't know who mine is yet. I've got a few names rumbling around in my head, but I don't know if mine is the same as someone else's.
Mine was... Fuck, now I've forgotten the guy's name. It wasn't James Caan, was it?
James Caan, the actor. The dad from Elf.
Yeah.
What a great movie.
I like how that's how you recognize James Caan.
James Caan,
Fuck
the
the
dad
Godfather.
from Elf.
He's the dad from Elf.
No, it wasn't James Caan. It was there was that story of the famous actor who was it Edwards or and they're on a boat and then they killed the wife.
Oh, you're thinking of
who's
something Wood who drowned.
Yeah, was it James Woods?
I don't think anyone ever got charged for that. Wasn't Christopher Walken on that boat? And or John Voight or something like that was on that
We're
boat.
libeling everyone now. I put you on the spot. I apologize. We'll have to.
You did put me on the spot, but like that story in particular, like, I remember the story, but for some reason I can't recall the actor.
I know her surname was Wood because my mum used to make a joke, which is what's the only type of wood that doesn't float, and it's the name of that actress.
Oh wow!
She drowned.
Jeez. Brutal.
I'm now searching James Woods drowned wife.
Natalie Woods was the word. Natalie
Wood
was the actress who drowned.
Robert Wagner.
But I don't think he got charged with anything, right? Like,
no, he didn't.
Because he goes on. He ends up being number 2 in Austin Powers films.
I don't necessarily think that we have a standard of people being charged in order to make a number. If there's evidence out there, there's
Chris,
evidence out
surely,
there.
surely your episode has to be Oscar Pistorius. The Blade Runner.
Maybe that's a stretch goal, but I've always found this particular story quite fascinating. So this is the one that I'm going to be tackling.
Nice.
It is Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken on a boat.
I knew it was Christopher Walken.
And they kill supposedly.
Well, like she drowns. That's the only thing that happened. Like no one ever got charged with anything.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But what happened with fucking Matthew Broderick? Like,
you have to be a patron.
Matthew Broderick swerved into the other lane and it hit an oncoming car. Now you just
allegedly,
drowned. And no one was ever charged with anything.
The dude is fucking Inspector Gadget, and you want me to expect that he doesn't know how to drive a fucking BMW 318? Come on,
right?
Come
we
on,
should
mate.
say if you want more of this gold content, make sure you join the Patreon. Check out Matthew Broderick, No Murderer, and keep your eyes open for the newest known murderer when Chris gets back from holiday.
Yeah. Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken, known murderers, because that's how you do a sequel, fellas. You bring in another antagonist.
You put an S on the end, like in Aliens.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Hell yeah. Anyway, fellas, helping keep us plugged into the Matrix, we have some very lovely patrons. I'm going to read their names out now. Some of them have been on screen already, but I am, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Jesper Camdahl Nielsen, Javella Cujo, Leo Murga, Lonnie Thompson, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pierce, part of the 0.24%. If you know, you know. Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach Cream. I hope you noticed that, like, as I was reading out those names, I was going from like normal to Hollywood. Hell yeah, baby.
Oh, nice.
And then, of course,
I liked it.
Fellas, we're talking about the big boys now. These guys, they're not only keeping us jacked into the Matrix, but they're jacking us off at the same time. It's a new Japanese invention, but that's just how it is. We didn't ask for it, but we're glad it's happening. I am, of course, talking about Shell Shock, Doppler, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Seamless Sigma Guerrero, The Dude Abides, and he's got a new name, everybody. It's twitch.tv/Peaswad, where I'm a shirtless fat man in a coconut bra. That is, of course, our main man, Peaswad. He does stream on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Peaswad. And he's not lying. There are some things where he goes shirtless and wears the coconut bra for reasons unknown to
you have to watch
world.
To find out.
You got to watch to find out. You got to be in it to win it, as they say.
Is that the first self-promotion we've had through changed Patreon names?
Yeah.
I think it must be.
I think it is, yeah. So there we go. Thank you, one and all. Honestly, it means the world to us that you continue to support us, and you keep that fire burning just inside, just under our anus, kind of making sure that we can never relax. So I'll blame you for my eventual burnout, but in the meantime, I'm here for the ride. All right, and there we go. Fellas, fucking all this Matrix talk has got me fucking hyped up. So why don't you kind of like either hype me up further, although judging by the podcast document in front of me, probably say help mellow me out a little bit. All right, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke?
Damn.
I think it's got to be Jamie, right? Because Jamie, you've been away for a while. Surely you've got a lot to talk about.
No, I've been away for a while, but I've got fuck all to show about it. Because as you guys know, being away hasn't meant just being away from the podcast or being away from work, which would both be good opportunities to play an abundance of video games and watch movies and TV shows and stuff like that. But I've also been away from civilization as we know it, and I've spent most of the last week living in the countryside, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
wow. Is that country with the C-U-N-T?
Some of the locals that I met, yeah, you'd believe it.
You had a good old time.
I did have a good old. Do you know what? I had a relaxing old time, but it's a little bit technologically limited. You know, we're talking slow internet, if any. We're talking watching what the majority of a 6-person family wants to watch on the television every night. Everyone goes to bed at like 10 o'clock.
The dream.
There are like children getting ready to go back to school, so you can't make too much noise. And so
hold on.
Were you
on the Snowpiercer?
So this is the big spoiler. I was in the Snowpiercer. So it turns out Jonesy was right that there's some fucking that goes on at the end of that film, but it was actually me fucking up the polar bear. I killed the polar bear, and then I can't.
Did you wear its
what
skin?
Happens. Yeah, exactly.
But did you enter it? Did you?
No, I did not. I did not enter it.
Did you puncture it in a particular way, which may or may not be of a sexual nature, with what may or may not be your erect penis?
Okay, see, look, I was with you for a second there, and then you lost me precisely in those last two words. I am.
Would you say, Chris? Would you say that Luke entered the Tauntaun with his penis?
Well, yeah, because he was inside the Tauntaun and his penis was in it. So
he was, wasn't he?
There is a violation there, okay? And Space Peter is kind of like all over it. All right, they
didn't mind the gutting it.
To that polar bear, okay? I need to clarify for the sake of Space Peter and real life Peter. Peter just sounds like I'm saying the name of a bloke called Peter. I didn't touch that. I've never touched a polar bear. I never would touch a polar bear. I don't trust them.
Oh God. You've just reminded me, and it kind of comes full circle to what Jonesy said, but there's that show, The IT Crowd, and one of the jokes there was this guy's name was Peter File.
Yes, Peter File.
Oh, I see, Peter File.
And he runs to an airport yelling, "I'm Peter File, I'm Peter File," and he gets arrested, doesn't he?
Does he actually?
That's great.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Is that like one of those things, like I have a bomb in my bag that you just can't say at an airport, otherwise you just get immediately arrested?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
If you run around shouting,
it's like when Giant Bomb go to E3 and they always go with like carry their equipment and everything. Back when you could go to E3 and they used to carry around their equipment, but like their cameras and everything in these like hard shell boxes, and on it would just be like in big writings, Giant Bomb. And they always used to get stopped at the airport. It's great. I love that little anecdote.
I wouldn't actually do that to a case with a giant bomb in it. And they're like, you're going to be too careful.
Got to check it anyway. So drop your pants and let's, lube up. Anyway, yes, Jamie.
Yeah, it was
molesting polar bears. What else did you do?
That was pretty much it. But I got away from the countryside. I left their primitive technology behind and arrived back in the bright lights of the big city just in time to play a new video game before we came on the podcast, which was The Artful Escape, which you guys might remember it as the Annapurna Interactive published video game that debuted on an Xbox stream probably like 2 years ago now, and it is a young man, it's a side-scrolling 2.5D platformer starring a young man playing a guitar with all kinds of psychedelic backgrounds.
That one, yeah.
And he's animated in such a way where it looks like he's got pins in his joints, and
yeah, like Adobe Animate.
Yeah, kinda. So I've played about half of this game. I think it doesn't seem that long. I reckon it's like a 4-hour experience. And actually, I say experience just as much as I say the word game, which is kind of me allowing for what I imagine some of Jonesy's criticisms will be when we get around to that point. But
it's not a game. How much percentage of it is playing?
Actually, to be fair, it's 100% a game. I'm just almost preempting some of the criticism I think it's going to get. But I'm honestly, I'm in love with this game.
Wow.
I think it's fucking really quite stunning. And I've got to clarify up front, it's not stunning or phenomenal as a game. And this is kind of what I was getting at before, as an experience, as an audio-visual experience. Because what it is, like the premise is kind of like quaint and simple, and then immediately goes batshit crazy. So you play this sort of young musician who is the nephew of this sort of Bob Dylan-like figure, this legendary folk musician who is an icon of this town that you live in. It's like a fictional town in Colorado. And you are yourself an aspiring musician, but because your uncle is so famous and so revered, you basically are still kind of living in his shadow, and everyone expects you to make the similar kind of music to him, and you kind of like feel like you're forced to be going down this folk music avenue, when really you just like ripping, unreal face-melting guitar solos whenever you can.
Do you get to do that in the game? Guitar solos?
You do get to, there's a designated shredding button, so you can hold X at any time and just shred. And then essentially what happens is you are visited by this. The easiest way to describe her is kind of like Ramona in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So this
Yeah.
weird, almost otherworldly woman shows up who's kind of got this weird, like, accepting way about her, but also this kind of like biting, sort of like quite cold and sharp sense of humor. And she poses the question, well, what if you just become someone else entirely? And it's very hard to explain what transpires and how other characters and other elements work into it. But if you've seen the trailer, you know that what follows is this absolutely bizarre, psychedelic, cosmic, supernatural trip into what I believe is called the Cosmic Extraordinary. And the rest of the game is this complete, like, headfuck, absolutely bizarre, topsy-turvy platformer. I say platformer, it's really as simple as you are just running to the right, making fairly simple jumps, shredding your guitar, and getting from A to B. And that's where I've got to be cautious as to like how much of a game I make this out to be. It's not like, you know, when you were playing, like, I know it's a bit of a throwback, Rayman Origins or Rayman Legends, where you're like, oh, this is a really pretty platformer where I'm moving from left to right, like in a Mario Bros. Style way, but it's also got some challenge. There's no challenge to this. This is about taking in the visuals, and this is one of the most extraordinary looking games I have ever played in my life. And maybe when I'm finished, I won't feel the same way about it, but just in terms of not just the execution on the art style, which I think is phenomenal in and of itself, but just the sheer amount of creativity and diversity and variety on display, and the way it comes together with this unbelievably, like, huge orchestral soaring soundtrack that has this crazy sort of like psychedelic guitar solo at the center of it throughout. It's just kind of like almost took my breath away at points. And I know this sounds like a little bit sort of like over the top. And I got to stress, I really am talking about the audio-visual experience of this game. But I think it's something that's 100% worth experiencing if you have like, if you have time for that kind of a thing. Like, you can't expect much of it as a platformer. You can't expect action sequences. You can't expect a challenge. But if you just want this sort of like, this almost like musical variety tour style experience, like, it's really, I think it's something quite special in that sense. It's also quite funny.
Is it on Games Pass?
It is on Game Pass, yes. So it is on Xbox and PC, and obviously you can buy it on Steam if you or Xbox if you want to own it outright, and it's on Game Pass. It's like only like it's less than 10 gigs as well, so it's like as a 4-hour game,
cool.
I think it's pretty manageable.
What do you reckon is 4 hours in total, or that you've played it for 4 hours?
I reckon it's 4 hours in total. I think I've played about 2 hours, and I think I'm halfway through. It's also like, just to talk about another string that it has to its bow, because I know I am intentionally underselling the gameplay component, which for some people will be a concern. The writing is also quite strong, I found, and quite funny. I think when I first started it, and Josie will know what I mean when I say, like, I was worried at first that it was going to have that kind of Donut County or A Night in the Woods style comedy that feels like it was entirely written by people who do all their tweets in the lowercase with no punctuation. I can confirm it's not that. It is actually quite clever, and it's quite sharp, and it's supported by a fun voice cast. Like Jason Schwartzman plays this. This is a bit of a spoiler as to how some of the cosmic. He plays an entity, let's say, who visits you, and you can tell he's really hamming it up and enjoying some of the quirky dialogue he has. Mark Strong is one of the characters. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones is another.
Oh, cool.
Carl Weathers, is that the guy's name? He plays a very cool, very fun character who's kind of with you through a lot of the early parts of the game. I just think I was really kind of like, I knew
that's a hell of a voice cast.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's one of those ones where I watched that trailer and I thought, that looks cool. Like, there's definitely some really cool stuff there that's popping off the screen. I wonder what the game is like. And you play it and you're like, the game is nothing to write home about. But actually, there's so much of what's impressive about the trailers and what pops off the screen of the trailers that I think it can sustain a 3 to 4 hour long runtime. And that's why I think, considering it's so attainable through Game Pass, I think I have to recommend it to anyone that, if you watch that trailer and you think, I'm down for something like this, it seems really cool. It seems really, really cool.
Nice. D2S down to shred.
There you go.
It sounds cool, man. Like, especially from what you said. Like, yeah, I'll be honest, you had me at 4 hours.
Yeah.
But
and
yeah,
Game Pass,
like
4 hours
forgot,
Game Pass on
I
there.
forgot the name, but you have jogged my memory on it. And yeah, I think I was with you on it. It's like, this looks cool, but I wonder what it's like. But yeah, that's
Yeah. I watched one video review before I started as well. It was IGN's one, which I think they came down as an 8 out of 10, and it was very aligned with my thoughts. If anyone wants
Yeah.
to kind of like get a little bit more of a second opinion before they jump in, yeah.
But even 4 hours, just fucking do it.
Yeah,
like,
and I
not a big
can't
ask.
stress enough, like some of the visuals, like it's one of those games where to call it 2.5D feels like you're doing it a disservice. Like there is so much depth and detail and creativity on display, and so the way some of these scenes pop out of the frame, and the camera pulls back while your guy's doing a knee slide down a hill, doing some crazy guitar solo, and there's like fucking so much stuff going on in the frame, and it's also bright and colourful, and like it really is quite something. I was very impressed.
Nice. Okay.
Decent. I haven't actually played anything, I think, of note in the last week. I've played a couple of things, but nothing that I'm going to bore anybody with. I've just been sort of like carrying on with a few things.
Fair.
But I did get to watch The Suicide Squad.
Well, hey, week 3 of talking about the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, courtesy of Warner Brothers, who sent us a link. Very nice of them, so I could actually watch it when it went live. I think it was for home rental, so I watched it and really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good.
Boom!
It's
a good movie. It's a good movie.
It is a good movie, and it's kind of funny because watching The Suicide Squad, it just highlights everything that was wrong with Suicide Squad. And just to really rub it in, my wife hadn't seen Suicide Squad, so after we watched The Suicide Squad, she said, "Well, hey, let's watch Suicide Squad."
I love that.
And it just made me sort of like realize what a pile of crap Suicide Squad is. Like, which is like weird, because if you said to someone, you can take an actor like Will Smith, an actress like Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, and a whole load of other people, like cool people, put them in that movie, and you're going to get a trash film. It doesn't sound likely. It sounds, kind of sounds like
you'd have to work really hard to fuck it up.
Exactly. Yeah, like that's the cast that you'd cast to fix like a series, as opposed to the first one that was really bad. And I just came down on, I think you guys even said it before, like Suicide Squad thinks it's cool, it's not. It thinks it's like edgy, it's not. It's like a painfully uncool, unfunny like movie that tries to take itself too seriously, and when it tries to do any of the interesting stuff, it kind of fails. Whereas The Suicide Squad manages to just nail those things. It takes the piss out of itself. It's humor right from the get-go. It knows exactly what it's trying to do. I think you guys said to me that it's like it really earns its name, The Suicide Squad, and it really does. Like in the early on in that film,
it's the opening fucking scene, dude.
Yeah, which was great, and then they even managed to, because I have a weird thing in that origin stories in movies usually get me, like, and if it's an origin story, then I'm in, like, just because I'm intrigued by the origin story. Not having that in the Suicide Squad in the same way that was in Suicide Squad, just made it so much better. Like getting into what the movie was so much quicker. There was some of the stuff that I thought was a bit done. Like, I don't want to give anything away, obviously, for people that haven't seen it, but there are some things that I think they were trying to say was cool and edgy and funny, which was I don't know, it kind of went a little flat for me, but the majority of it was great, was really funny, worked very well, enjoyable movie. Where they needed to be stupid, they were stupid. Where they needed to kind of, take the piss, they took the piss. I was also a fan of some of the visual gags where you saw things from the perspective of the different people in the Suicide Squad. And they
Polka Dot
Man. like Polka Dot Man, or
Jamie fucking loves it. He's like
every time they did one of those, like the first time they do it in the camp and the second time they do it in the disco,
the club.
The club.
Right,
yeah.
yes.
I was laughing my head off.
Yes, and then the last time they do it with the I thought that was great. I even said it like before you saw it. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be this," and it was great. Like I loved it. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Again, just for those in the know who have seen it, and without trying to spoil anything for those who haven't, the camp infiltration scene, right?
See, that's one that I thought I didn't think was. It kind of fell flat for me.
Oh, Alex Jones.
I think it was the execution. Like, it wasn't the setup. Like, I could see what they were trying to do, and I could see why it would be funny. But it was I don't know. It just felt a little bit.
I thought the
Not
execution was quality. It
not
didn't make any
stiff.
sense because like people are screaming that they're on fire, and like someone 5 feet away hasn't woken up.
That's
sleeping
what
on a hammock.
But that's what it was. There's a
Yeah,
scene
but
where
I-
they
but I
walk
could
up
go
to
with the
3
comedy,
blokes
like
looking at them.
Yeah,
There were
exactly.
there's
Come
3
on,
dudes,
Jonesy.
and
Take
I was
your
just like,
fucking Snowpiercer hat off for once. You're watching the fucking Suicide Squad.
it was just felt a bit. I don't know. But yeah, but I see. Whereas the opening scene on the beach, I thought that was. Like I thought that was hilarious where they all had the different things happening to the different people. I was like, oh, that's great. But no, I liked the camp infiltration scene. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but I didn't like it as much. Do you know what the problem was? You guys had said that, and then I was expecting it to be really good, really funny. And it was kind of
it's a subtle
like,
thing.
oh,
it is
right.
it is a subtle kind of scene, but yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I
The
just loved it,
reveal,
man. So
the
good.
reveal, I laughed out loud
Yeah.
when they find out what's actually going
Also,
on. I
like
laughed out loud.
when again, I'm trying to dance around it, but then also after what you're talking about, the reveal of the reality of the camp situation, and she tries to find out what's going on, and Idris Elba and John Cena are both kind of being shifty, and Polka Dot Man just says his version of it, like what he did. I thought that line that cracked me up as well.
Polka Dot Man, like I know everybody like really likes King Shark, and King Shark was great, and we definitely needed more King Shark, and I hope to see more King Shark in the future. But for me, like Polka Dot Man was like the breakout, like above King Shark for me. I just thought regardless of the visual gags that you guys said, just like his tone, his delivery, his look, like the reason of his like, just the powers, and yeah, man, it was just really, really fucking cool. And I would have liked to have seen a lot more kind of done with him.
I could have done with more Polka Dot Man and more King Shark. There was a weird thing that King Shark sort of makes a few decent sort of appearances earlier on, and then there seems to be a big lull, and then he doesn't really do much more until you get toward the end again. I don't know. It was just, and I wanted a few more sort of like gags about him eating people.
There's one shot that's like maybe the most beautiful shot in the whole fucking in the whole thing, where King Shark picks someone up and rips him in half. Yeah, and kind of like it's a mid shot, or maybe like further back, and there's like I think it's like a lightning strike as it happens in like a storm or something. It's just like such a great fucking video. What I got to do is get a still image of that for my background, because that's so fucking cool. He's just ripping him apart. So good.
I love it.
It's almost an irony though in that how good the Suicide Squad is. It's sort of leveled up because of how bad Suicide Squad was. I kind of feel like if this had stood on its own, I probably would have said like, oh yeah, it's a funny film, it's a good film, it's like worth watching. But I don't think I would have been as positive about it had it not been how bad Suicide Squad is.
I can believe that, because it almost kind of like resets your expectation, right? Like, or not even resets it, just kind of lowers your expectation as to what a Suicide Squad film should be. And then you go in there, you're like pleasantly surprised, like, okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And now we have just 4 months until the Peacemaker TV show.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Well, fellas, are you ready to hear about the crazy whirlwind that I've had in terms of my catch up?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Jamie's giving me the look because
I'm not sure where this gag is going, but
it's not a
because
gag.
I did listen to last week's, so
yeah, it's not a gag. There's no fucking whirlwind. Last week I had some decent entries, and this one I've just got Psychonauts 2, more of it. Still loving it. You guys need to play it. Don't need to say anything more about it.
Will do.
So I'm hell yeah, buddy. So I'm kind of like in this like awkward position. The other thing is obviously I played some more Dragon Quest 11S demo on the Switch. It's still fucking going. That demo never ends. I swear. That's the we talk about Games Pass being the fucking best deal in gaming. I'll tell you what, if you're into your JRPGs, this might be the best fucking deal in gaming. But yeah, I was playing that because I was on a train to Manchester for work again. And whenever that happens, I usually don't have much time to play Psychonauts or Psychonauts gaming in general. So yeah, and then obviously going to Greece, I'll take my Switch with me, but I don't know how much gaming I'll get done.
Yeah.
You know what I want to play on my Switch? Kentucky, what was it?
Route Zero.
Kentucky Route Zero. I reckon I'm going to get that as like my holiday game. I think that could be pretty cool.
I've wanted to play that game for a long time. Yeah.
Hell yeah. But yeah, other than that, because I'm on a train, guess what, fellas? Rinsing the Donda and Certified Lover Boy albums, pitching them up against each other, trying to figure out which one's the better one.
Where are you coming down on it?
I'm coming down on both are solid sixes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Are you feeling the same?
Kind of. Except like with the difference comes in kind of like expectations and frustration. And so like it feels like with Certified Lover Boy, it's kind of like a fair enough 6. And with Donda, it's like a frustrated 6. So they feel like different 6s.
I get you.
That's interesting.
Because I'm just not a huge Drake fan. I just think that album sounded like more of Drake.
You know, and that's what it is. It's not propelling Drake any further, right?
No.
And I think the disappointing thing for me is that like I can't single out a track where I'm like, this is a banger.
On Donda or on Certified Lover Boy?
Kind of on both. Like I'll be fair to Donda over Certified Lover Boy. I feel the beats are better on Donda.
Yes.
But I think maybe vocally, not in terms of like theme, but just I prefer the way Drake kind of structures his songs and delivers his kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
And his features on them. A little bit less hot on the samples that he kind of went for on this album, because he's kind of like the sample king, right? I don't know. Like both of them are like just kind of.
We got the Globgo Glabulab.
Did you?
Yeah. Kanye samples I am the Globgo Glabulab.
What is the Globgo Glabulab?
Oh, we've showed it to you a million times. That fucking weird worm in the library, like bad CGI.
Oh, right. So, I tell you what's funny about it is I wouldn't even consider buying a Drake album, but I would definitely be tempted with the Kanye one, which is so it's interesting that they're both
Jonesy,
lukewarm.
Let me bring you, let me drag you kicking and screaming into the 21st century. You don't have to pay for any of them, buddy, because they're on Spotify.
Oh, well, there you go.
I love it.
I won't listen to them for free. So
I will go and buy the video, the taped cassette. But no, I just kind of feel like, because it was this whole. What's interesting about it is there's this whole feud between them, and it's like, no, my album's better, and then people kind of siding on their camps and saying like, fuck Drake or fuck Kanye, whatever it is. And I'm here and I'm just kind of like, I'm fans of both of them generally. And I'm just like, this is not great albums, fellas. Like, you know what it is? It almost feels like pretentious bullshit to me coming from both of them. Quite honestly.
To be fair though, it probably is that.
I think
is it not?
With Kanye, that's definitely a problem. I don't know if like the pretension was as much of a concern of mine on Certified Lover Boy. It was just sort of like almost like a lack of ambition. And it kind of like let the budget and the polish of the production do the talking, and you just kind of keep doing your thing, and that's fine in an album, but just not that exciting, right?
Let's have a guess. Okay, I've got both Metacritic scores, critics and users up for both albums. If you had to guess what the critic score was for, let's start with Donda. What would you reckon?
I think it's pretty low because I know a lot of the critics have been giving it like 1 stars because of featuring Marilyn Manson and
DaBaby.
Was it DaBaby? So by a matter of virtue, they just kind of gave it a low score, whether it deserved it or not. I think the average score that it would get would be between a 6 and a 7. I think did the Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano, I think he gave it a 6, didn't he?
So what you're saying for Donda?
I haven't watched
what
this
do you reckon?
review
yet. So I'd say for Donda, I'd say 6.5, like
6.5.
in between 6 and 7.
Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll say 6. I think
6, and then what about for Certified Lover Boy? Where are you coming down on that?
I could see that getting like a 7. I just don't think it. I don't know if it's offensive enough to get that many like scathing reviews.
I probably like boring, but I'd probably say 7 as well.
I can say Donda has got a 53 from the critics, and Certified Lover Boy's got a 61.
So they're both shooting low.
But that's like it's not
fair enough.
It's not far off, like
user score. Do you want to hear the user score?
Yeah, I imagine they're in the 60s to 70s.
Certified Lover Boy 3.5
out of 5.
Out of 10. No, out of 10.
Sorry, out of 10. Out of 10. Yeah,
out of 10.
Yeah, 3.5 out of 10. And Donda's got 6.4 out of 10.
Whoa. Okay, I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting them to be like on the same level.
Oh yeah, I always find it interesting when the critics and the users are massively at odds with each other.
It's hard though, right? Because they are so kind of like polarized and they are feuding with each other. It's like who's got the bigger kind of active.
See, I would have guessed Drake, but I suppose maybe not. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not in that. I'm not in that arena. I've got no idea. So
yeah, don't worry, mate. Like Puddle and Mud are still making music, so they got you covered. All right, Stained, they're still on the outside. They're still looking in. Don't worry about it. It's all right.
Hoobastank have to be cooking something up, right?
It's clearly, man, gotta be.
All greats.
All greats. Oh well, I'm glad you said greats, fella, because you know what was great was the fucking PlayStation Showcase, which is probably what everybody is actually here to listen to on our podcast, and they just had to wait through about an hour and 10 minutes or so to get there. So that's
Apologies.
The Super Show, baby. But man, what a showcase! Like, I don't know if maybe it's just like I was giddy from the get go from like the Matrix trailer, right? And usually I try and kind of like temper my expectations with any of this. And I was tempered with going into it, but watching the showcase, I just thought they did a lot right. Like I enjoyed almost everything that they kind of showed off. And I'm hyped for a lot of stuff.
It's funny though, because so if you take out the top 3 like games that they showed off, would you still have said it was, because I kind of feel like it was all right, but until they got to the end, I was kind of like, okay. And then it was like at the end, it was like, oh, bam, bam, bam. Like it was big, big, big stuff. But I don't know. It got to a point where I would have said it was kind of lukewarm, but they backloaded that baby with some.
They did backload it.
Big
but
things.
But to be fair, like that backloading that they had was PlayStation Studios stuff.
Yes, yeah, they waited until right at the end to do their first
whereas everything else
sure.
before that was like third party. But let's go through it, fellas, okay? Because they kicked it off straight away with the fucking like LucasArts logo, and immediately I was like, oh, okay, what is this? What is this? Then they showed the Asper logo, and then I was like, that rings a bell. Turns out to be an entire fucking remake of Knights of the Old Republic, something that had been rumored, but we weren't sure whether it was a remake or remaster or what it was. But it just seems to be like a fucking rebuilt from the ground up, overhauled visual fucking fuck me. It's good to be a Star Wars fan kind of
Put that
thing.
on the box. It's a visual fuck me.
I told you, fellas, it's a fuck. It's a fuck.
It is the whole thing's a fuck.
The whole thing's a fuck. All right? Like, you don't get better than that. It's a fuck. Yeah, man. Like, to be fair, they only showed Darth Revan. Was it Darth Revan? Fucking, I'm getting.
There's some guy that looked like the guy from the new movies with the his mask was kind of similar to Kylo Ren's mask.
There we go, mate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
That's my non-Star Wars fan analysis of the trailer for you. A man whose mask looks like the guy from Girls' Mask stands in front of the camera.
Yeah, it was indeed Darth Revan. Man, the way it looks, like if you just search Darth Revan and see what he looked like in the original game and see what they did there, it's like, fuck yeah. I'm so all over this. I love the RPG. Did you guys play it? The original?
No. I did not play it.
Don't play it now because it's aged terribly, in my opinion. But
I think, do you know what? I think I actually thought about playing it like years later and looked at it and was sort of like, I don't think I'm going to play it. Like, it doesn't look amazing.
You can play it on your phone. The thing is, it's turn based. Like it's.
But that's what I was going to say to you, because this is a timed PlayStation 5 exclusive, right? So it's a, is that something that puts you off playing it? Like, would you play it on PlayStation 5 or would you wait until it comes out on like PC and other platforms?
If I had a PlayStation 5, mate,
if you had one. Because
Because
it doesn't seem like a very PlayStation or console game to me.
Okay, let me ask you this: is Mass Effect a console game?
Yeah.
Okay, so then this is.
But I always thought that KOTOR was much more of a like. There's no direct third part like over the shoulder third person action in that sense.
No, there isn't. But
which Mass Effect has in space.
No. But what I'm saying is like they are very similar kind of games in that like KOTOR is the granddaddy of Mass Effect, if that makes sense, because they were both from BioWare at the time.
But for me, like the running around, the action element of Mass Effect makes it a console game in that sense, because you've got like you're still shooting aliens and hiding and whatever. You've got the RPG elements are obviously added on top of that. KOTOR to me always seemed like something I'd sit down on a PC maybe, but I think I'd definitely wait until it came onto other platforms.
Well, this is the interesting thing about a remake, buddy. Right? Like nothing to say that it's going to play exactly the same as it used to play.
That's very true. Do you know what? I didn't even think of that, but it's absolutely true. It might be
like
very
if you
different.
look at Final Fantasy VII remake, like Final Fantasy VII doesn't play like Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and like I don't think people want paused turn-based combat in their RPGs anymore.
No,
do you know what I mean? Like unless you're like talking about like diehard JRPG fans, which is like fair enough, but yeah, like I'd be very curious to see how they handle it and to what extent they kind of do a remake.
Yeah, it is a timed exclusive as well. So if this is a game that's being remade with the PC in mind, it's going to be slightly awkward when it's only on the PlayStation 5 for at least a little while.
That was my thinking. That was exactly my thinking. Was like, is this going to be a bit of a weird one that people sort of go, just wait for the PC version, man. You don't want to be playing this on the PlayStation 5. But as you say, Chris, it could well be that they just change up and they make it play a bit different.
Yeah. But Jonesy, you mentioned a weird one, and I'll say one of two weird things for the show came up next, which was Project Eve by Shift Up Corporation, which looked like some kind of like sci-fi anime shit that it looked like Devil May Cry in terms of its action to me. I mean, I don't know if I'm thinking of like barking up the wrong tree in terms of that, but
no, I thought the same thing. I thought that Bayonetta, Nier Automata, like that kind of, that kind of action.
Yeah,
that's what it sort of looked like.
Sexy ladies with big swords, right?
I think the Nier comparison. I don't know if it's quite as frenetic or aerial as like a DMC or a Bayonetta, but he's definitely got that kind of like that Japanese developed action adventure sort of like feel to it,
like a Platinum game.
Yeah, kind of. There's some Platinum vibes there for sure. Scantily clad women being part of the package. I think they're not scantily clad, then tightly fitted.
Tightly wound up.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say she was definitely rocking some TikTok leggings, in the opening when they sort of did the gratuitous arse shot.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, Jesus, how? Okay.
Have you seen what the TikTok leggings are? Have you seen the TikTok leggings? They're like leggings that go in the arse crack.
Oh,
no, I don't know TikTok either.
What makes them TikTok though?
No, the people call them TikTok leggings because it's the ones that all the TikTok models wear, where the leggings go like into the arse crack. So each
viral
side of the arse is encapsulated.
I know exactly what you mean.
Chris knows what I'm on about. And
all I have to do is close my eyes and I could be sure.
It's like she had on like PVC leather trousers that were like painted on.
You know what it's like, Jamie? Imagine legs. Okay, like if you imagine like wearing like shiny PVC kind of like things. Okay, so you got the legs, and then instead of a bum, you've got two big Christmas baubles.
Okay,
just like that's the visual aid that you need to kind of like think about.
Okay, I can kind of see what's going on. I'm watching Jonesy's just sent me a link. I don't know if I was meant to say that or not.
Oh God, yeah, open it.
Oh wait, Jonesy's just sent me a link to something up what I was already doing, which is good.
Oh right, okay.
Watching videos.
Oh hell yeah, bro.
I think
I've derailed it, haven't I? Yeah, it was
TikTok leggings.
If you're gonna derail it for anything, let's go for some.
Don't let your speech slow like that, Chris. You fucking weird guy.
You're on a podcast.
Fellas, I might be a weird guy, but you know what else is weird? Tiny Tina. In Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That's right, coming out March 25th, 2022, which is the standalone spin-off of Borderlands. You'll probably remember Tiny Tina's fucking escape from dungeon keep expansion bullshit thing for this Borderlands 2. But now this is its own kind of thing. And I gotta say, like, I love Borderlands. I know Tiny Tina's acquired taste. I don't mind her. I don't like her. She's just kind of like average for me. But I liked what was putting in front of me.
Okay.
I'm picking up what they put down.
The question is, how would you feel about her if she was wearing TikTok leggings? That's the thing I really want to know.
I would appreciate her.
No, I'm with you. I think Jonesy was Jonesy said it when we were watching. Like, that actually looks kind of cool. Like, they've done enough of a job to mix up the kind of the art style and the setting and the environment and the not fantastical, but the fantasy elements that are drawing from to kind of give it a new lick of paint and a new flavor that, if nothing else, should be sufficient for the length of one Borderlands-esque game, which is, good stuff.
Yeah, I liked it. And I like the fact that they were like, opened up a crate and, the typical Borderlands thing of like 50 million guns coming out of it, and they're all different kind of colors, except they weren't guns, they were melee weapons. And I was like,
yes,
you know what? That's fucking cool. I like that. I can respect that.
And it looks like a lot of fun. I think they've done a really good job of sort of taking that aesthetic and then making it work really well with something else. Yeah, it looks very cool.
I know that guns are like Borderlands thing, and they even kind of like mention it, like Tiny Tina was like, oh, but why have guns in this thing? It's like, because I said so, whatever. But do you think that it would have been better without guns? Like, if they just honestly had the balls to say, you know what, no guns in this game, and it's like bows and arrows, sure, but like Skyrim, but Borderlands, that kind of crossover, instead of saying like, oh, it is that, but we're just adding guns on top.
I would think it would have been too much of a departure from Borderlands if you said like no guns at all. If it was just melee weapons and bows and arrows, I think you would have lost a lot of people, because you've obviously got like I don't know what you call them, like the magical attacks as well. But no, I don't know. I like the fact they've kept some of that Borderlands flavor.
Yeah,
fair.
I'm with Josie. Yeah, if you
I'm
can have both, why not have both?
And let's fucking get some co-op parties going, fellas. Like, that's
totally
always fun.
I mean, I'm sat here as the only person who played and finished Borderlands 3, so I feel like I'm not the issue here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've got it on my PlayStation, but
Me too.
I don't want to play it on PlayStation. And then you kind of get put into this awkward situation, right, where you've already got a copy of the game, so you don't want to buy it again because you're just like, well, I've got it, but then I'm never going to play it because I don't want to play it on PlayStation. Anyway, that's a Chris problem, not a you problem, all right? But Jonesy, I guess you want to talk about the next one, because I remember you were quite the first time we saw it, you were super hot on it.
I still think it looks fantastic. So this is Forspoken from Square Enix, which looks very good. And as we were watching it, like Jamie was saying about how the traversal looks fantastic. Like, there's a lot to really like about how this game is coming together. Jamie has terrified me in games in general now, because he made the comment before that there's quite a few games coming out that seem to just be using the Unreal Engine 5 and just making everything look amazing, but actually there might not be much of a game underneath it all. It's just like lots of pretty games. So now every game I look that looks phenomenal, I'm like, oh no, is it just going to be like an empty husk of a game with a few sort of mechanics? But yes, it's coming together well. It seems like it's got some fun being had with the writing and like the voice acting and stuff. And the world looks really cool. Like, that's the thing that I think that draws me to it is the exploration in that environment and sort of getting to grips with everything that's going on there. Because for people that don't know, it's the idea is there's like a girl who gets pulled from the normal world into sort of like a fantasy world, and it looks like that she sort of develops powers and she can do sort of like magic and things. If people remember, it's the one where she's like, "Is that a fucking dragon?" With like, was it motherfucking dragon? I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, which is and it looks cool. It looks very cool. So I think that's coming out. I was really surprised. It's coming out in 6 months. It's like spring 2022, which is kind of crazy. So we don't even have to wait that long to sort of get a look at it.
I mean, if it follows the trend of 2021, it's Not coming out in spring 2022.
Well, yeah, there is that.
That's the thing.
But we'll see.
Everything that gets announced fall 2021 comes out in spring 2022. Everything that announced in spring 2022 comes out fall 2022, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
almost like with
continues.
each and every single. What they really should do now is anytime they announce like even a release window, just put an asterisk next to it. And like asterisk on the top, and then you look at the bottom at the fine print. There's another asterisk, like give an explanation, and it says probably not.
The thing
Which
is,
is like guessed by the intern.
yeah, but there's no right way of doing it, because there's a big game we'll come to later on that didn't even bother putting in a year, and I was like, "What the fuck? You can't do that! Come on, to do that!" But yeah, Forspoken looks rad. Like it's got this strange thing where you're kind of getting the kind of the Final Fantasy like magic and elements, but with kind of like clearly like a character who's from a modern day like real world scenario and zapped into some other kind of world. And I think that's a really kind of interesting melding of ideas. And it's complemented really well by this sort of like ultra realistic art style that still contains these magical elements in a really neat way. And like Jonesy said, the traversal looks fun and fluid in a way. Jonesy actually likened it to Prototype, which in my book is actually not a bad thing at all. Because that game did actually manage to get a sense of speed and momentum going for it quite well. I don't know. I think it's got cool stuff going for it, and like the team behind it seem like there's some interesting characters.
Yeah, Gary Whitta, who wrote Rogue One, and Amy Hennig of Uncharted fame. Very nice pedigree there. I've got a little bit of a comparison from one particular section in the trailer. There was one bit where so she's got these like bangles on her arms that speak to her, right? And
yes,
there's this one bit where it shows off, like a little montage of her moves, and she was doing this like gun thing where she had her arm forward and she was going like this and like shooting coins or some shit, and then kind of like it was almost like SMG fire, and then went into a shotgun fire. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think she also does like the infamous kind of thing where it's hand out to the side, kind of like dush, dush, dush.
Yeah.
Kind of like throwing almost.
Right. So a little bit of infamous. What about a little bit of Control with how she was doing those things?
Yeah.
I got some serious Control vibes then. I was like, hey, you know what? Like a fucking medieval feeling Control could fucking do pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just need to see what I think Jonesy was getting at, which is that like, okay, when we've got those shots of her, doing these crazy sprints and jumps across this massive expanse of seemingly unoccupied land.
Yeah.
Where is she going to, and why, and what happens when she gets there?
You know what it's going to be? It's going to be Rage 2.
Don't. So you mean 5 side missions and the final mission? Oh, wicked! Yeah, that sounds great.
That's my fear now of every game that comes out where the world looks phenomenal. Is like I said, Jamie's given me this hang up that every game I'm like, it's just going to be an empty sandbox, gorgeous world where there's like no game in it. There's just a character.
I'd forgot all about it, because do you remember? So last 2 weeks ago we were talking about Gamescom, and we had a similar conversation around DokeV, and DokeV is from the people who made Black Pearl Abyss or whatever it's called.
Black Desert Online.
Black Desert Online, thank you.
Pearl Abyss.
Because I think they're called Pearl Abyss. I don't really remember.
Right.
I'm getting the dev name and the game name mixed up.
Fair.
But do you also remember this time last year at one of the showcases, I can't remember who it was, they had a single player game set in the same universe. And I've got to look up the name of the game now. And it was another trailer.
Universe of what?
Of the MMO, I just forgot the name of. Black Desert Online.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Wasn't it just Black Desert Online 2?
No, it wasn't. It's had its own name, and I'm going to look it up now. But it was another one of those trailers where it's like kind of like surprisingly detailed, clearly very expensive, realistic graphics, like some decent looking action taking place in usually very specific and usually quite tight confines.
Yeah,
and then like a huge amount of expanse elsewhere that you're not really sure what they're going to do with it. It's called Crimson Desert.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that does ring a bell actually.
And I think with definitely with Square Enix kind of at the helm, or Square Enix Publishing, I should say. There's definitely more reason to believe that Forspoken will become an actual game,
right?
But I think because it's Luminous Productions, isn't it? I think Luminous Productions is owned by Square Enix. I think it's a Square Enix.
It's all like in-house.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are in a position to like click on that link while we're at it, but like it's much the same thing where you're like a good character renders, some flashy combat that's almost weirdly Forspoken-esque in its use of sort of like various effects to kind of like highlight the momentum of combat, but it's all just taking place in these massive sparse environments in a trailer that's put together in such a way that doesn't really tell you what's that. I know we talked about it a lot and we're hitting a lot of the same notes, so I apologize, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like following that Wukong. Whatever.
See, Wukong with Black Myth Wukong, I'm a little bit more optimistic because they do seem to be focusing much more on like setting the scene for a boss fight. Like everything I've seen from that is like amazing environment, looks fantastic, and then it's like enough. Boss fight, which I think is much more down the almost oh god, what's it called?
Soulsborne.
Souls, thank you. Yeah, Soulsborne like titles. It feels more like that. Like that's what they're going for. I'm not as worried about that as I am about some of these big, like you were saying, big expansive games with incredibly realistic looking open worlds where actually you're like, oh, what am I doing here? It's in a weird way. It's almost like if you like Annapurna Interactive could come up with like indies these days where they say, look at this goddamn amazing 3D game world. It's actually an indie that one bloke made. It's like because of the engine he used, but actually there's not a lot in the game. It's not much going on. So we're getting into a weird place where people can make incredible things, but it's all the back end, I suppose. It's the gameplay, it's the interactivity, it's what you're actually doing, it's the writing, the story, and all of that, which is always the question now. You don't have to worry so much about graphics, as it were, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, no, Forspoken, like you said, it's got a good team behind it, which so I think is probably a bit of a different story, but definitely something to watch.
Well, Jonesy, I'm glad you mentioned the team because you're going to need one to deal with the extraction from the alien stuff. I am, of course, talking about Rainbow Six Extraction. Yes, we got another trailer for it. And that's more Rainbow Six Extraction. I think it looks cool. I'm going to play it. I hope you guys are going to play it with me, because if you don't, then I'm not going to play it. It's just one of those. But yeah, it's almost like this in my mind, right? We play Back 4 Blood, we rinse it, right? And then come January 2022, we're tired of Back 4 Blood. We want that Back 4 Blood kind of fix, and maybe Rainbow Six Extraction kind of fills in that gap in a different kind of way. That's the way I see it, at least.
Maybe. It looks cool. Like it's obviously different, but yeah, I like the look of that game. I like what it's become.
I will say that January.
Hold on, did you just say you come?
What it's become.
But what it's become.
I heard I come.
What it's come. No, what it's become.
That's another quote for the box. Just I come.
I come.
I will say one thing that Extraction.
I come. Sorry.
One thing that Extraction does not have going for it is that January. If you kind of look let's say Q1 rather than January, we're gonna have to be selective over what we spend £70 on. So
yeah.
I know Extraction, like especially if you got it on PC, probably end up paying like 30 to 40. But
I wonder if you do that Ubisoft thing where you.
Oh yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah,
subscription.
But like at least Back 4 Blood is Game Pass, right? So
yeah, we're there already, day one.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, fellas, Jamie, you're gonna be happy about this next one. It was Alan Wake remastered.
What did you call him?
I said Alan Rake. Did you say Alan Rape?
Oh, I heard something else entirely, which had
Alan Rape.
Well, I was sure. Yeah. Okay.
What's eating Gilbert Grape? No, I said Alan Wake.
Yeah. Look, this feels like I'm glad this is happening.
But Jamie, he doesn't use Duracell batteries anymore.
No, what's he use now? Energizer.
I think they're just generic. They didn't get They didn't renew any license for the batteries.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think if you need a good excuse to play Alan Wake again, which I know Jonesy was looking for only a couple of months ago, this is now one of those. And I might take them up on it. But at the same time, and I don't say this in a cynical way, I say this in a way that I'm totally supportive of. Remedy are a studio that have a lot of things going on at the moment. I think they've got big ideas for the next handful of years. Yeah. And if Alan Wake Remastered was a quick and cheap way to generate some money, then go for it. Like if Alan Wake Remastered helps continue to fund the sort of Alan Wake Control universe next big title that we're hoping to see in the next couple of years, and whatever else they're working on, then 100% go for it. I might buy it. I don't know, but it's
interesting.
Alan Wake's cool. It's got cool ideas.
Hell yeah. Yeah, cool. Jonesy, you gonna pick it up?
I think I probably will. So I think I don't know how far I am through Alan Wake at the moment. I maybe a third to a halfway through. I'm not sure. But it's one of those where it's actually aged pretty well. Like it hasn't made me think, it hasn't made me want to put it down because of the quality of the game, which some, trying to play some older games recently has. But it would definitely benefit from a remaster, as I'm not going to complain about it. And I think I'm at a point where I could quite easily handle a, spending a bit of money on it and picking it up.
Yeah, because it's not a full price game, right? It's
no. I think it's 23. There was a leak online just before the PlayStation went live.
25 or something?
It's 23, 25, something like that. I think Amazon leaked it just before the
the
showcase went live.
For 25, like, why not? I fucking love Remedy games. Anyway, other game that people like from developer.
Oh, they like it, all right.
Oh, they like it. You might have heard of it. It's a small indie game called Grand Theft Auto V. Don't know what the V stands for, but Victory.
I think it's got something to do with Cyberpunk, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
V.
No, it's Metal Gear Solid, so it's GTA V has come too.
V has come too. Yeah, totally. But fellas, this time Grand Theft Auto 5, because I'm not a fucking Luddite, is coming to expanded and enhanced. What did you think?
What are they actually doing with this? Because I'm not 100% on.
The track was a banger.
They do pick good tracks for their trailers.
I don't remember.
But at the same time, I'm with Jonesy. Like, this was a game, the expanded and enhanced version of this game for next generation consoles was announced at the summer event last year. And this, they hid it very well, but this trailer was a delay. This was meant to come out this Christmas, and now it's coming out in March.
Yeah.
So they're buying themselves another 6 months on their port for the next gen version of GTA 5 that I'm sorry, didn't look that different. And I was waiting for them to tout some like weird features, and I get that enhanced is a weird word, but expanded is a pretty specific word. Like, what have you expanded? And when they throw up on screen, like, oh, when you switch from one character to another, it's instantaneous.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
Do you know what?
Back when I first played this game 8 years ago, those loading times weren't that fucking long.
Do you know what, Jamie? I've been meaning to replay GTA 5, and the only reason I haven't was because of how long it takes to switch from character to character.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
that's, of course,
Do you know what, like,
untrue. So, yeah.
At the same time, when GTA 5 was free on the Epic Game Store for PC, like last year, I think it was, at some point, I did get the PC version. I played it maxed out settings. It is a pretty game if you push it as far as it can go, even without mods. And I started playing that story mode, and I very nearly kind of, almost without thinking, didn't stop. Like, there is still something. GTA 5 is still fundamentally a good game, but like, it's just, it's still GTA 5.
Can I give you my, what is the word? My usher. It's not really a confession, because I think I've made it quite obvious. Is that I haven't played GTA 5, and that kind of goes to the fact that I'm not entirely a fan of Rockstar games, which is mental, I know. Fucking
madness.
Crucify me now, but there you go.
It happens. Yeah. There's bound to be one.
There's bound to be one. His name is Chris. Ah, man. But you see, because we have different tastes, fellas, okay? You guys are all about that, whereas I am all about Ghostwire Tokyo, which looked fucking sick.
It did. Do you know what? There's some.
Jamie's either frozen or he's just giving me the fucking death stare.
No, I was looking at Jonesy wrestling with his emotions about this game.
Because it's the best looking I've seen this game look, and it actually made me think like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I'd actually like to take a look at this. It didn't look too, because everything before it looked a little bit too scary. I was like, I don't want to play this. It looks like it's going to freak me out. But then there was some, I don't know, some of the weird framing of like the hands and stuff. And I even said to Jamie at one point, like, is this like a weird like VR game looking? Have they decided they're going to make it put it onto PlayStation VR? Because it's like all the shots are like this, and the person's hands, and he's like doing magic or doing whatever. and it just looked a bit odd. And then I don't know, it looks cool. It looks cool. It looks doesn't look as freaky as I thought it did. It looks a bit more thrillery, a bit more sort of like mystery as well as some of the scary horror
and
stuff.
more fleshed out, right?
Yeah,
One of the criticisms I had with it in the trailer is like whenever they showed an enemy coming at the player, it was always like head on.
Right.
But like always, like nothing was coming from the side.
I think that's why Jonesy said is in VR. It looked like an arcade shooter in the way of like there's a tunnel vision kind of thing going on.
Or if you imagine like you say like Elder Scrolls Daggerfall or like the old Ultima games where you're walking down the corridor and you've literally got like 8 degrees of movement, and if someone comes in front of you, they're also on fucking 8 degrees of movement and they're in the same corridor, so they're always just fucking dead in front of you. And I was like, this is a weird effect.
Do you know what that game needs? And like maybe the fact that they didn't give it a date means that there's still time for this. That game needs an unedited gameplay trailer.
Right.
That needs an unbroken gameplay sequence so we can fill in the gaps on some of that stuff.
100% agreed. Fellas. But yeah, I'm liking the look of it. And something else that I'm liking the look of, much to my surprise, because the initial trailer didn't kind of grab me at all, but the more I've seen of it, the more I'm kind of warming to it in a particular way, and less so in another way, is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems like a fun time, which is what the movies were.
Totally. And I think when you look at all of this, when you look at what happened with Square Enix's deal with Marvel producing the Avengers last year, I think it's easy to get cynical around a game like this. But the more time you get to look at what they're going for, the more you reflect on what Eidos Montreal have done before with the Deus Ex series, for example, and you look at like how they are, I think, genuinely in earnest, trying to take a comic book property and tell their own story with their own sense of humor, and trying to take some of their own sort of like gameplay pillars that they've demonstrated in previous series and work them into that format. I think there's a lot to admire here, and I'm just in that place where I just hope for the best. I really hope that this comes out. I said to Jonesy earlier, it is a wait for the reviews game for me. I can't put my money up just yet, but I hope it's good. Absolutely, I hope it's good.
Well, you know,
there's
my
exciting
issue
stuff there.
Yeah. My issue is the first trailer that they showed off gameplay. And the gameplay did not look interesting to me. Whereas everything else I've seen since then has been more mood, story, and it's like, like in terms of that, I can definitely get behind it.
I thought the gameplay was unique in a way that I admired.
Yeah.
I kind of with Chris, I thought the gameplay they showed off looked kind of bland. But in a weird way, because I know what you mean, Jamie, that it looked kind of unique in some respects and looked like it might be fun. But then it was the things like they just had like cube enemies, and it was just like a bunch of blocks of jelly coming around and like trying to attack you. And I was just like, why? And it was a really sparse landscape they showed off, and it worried me a little bit. But I think with this trailer, they showed off a lot more of the world in general, and different locations and different enemy types. And they did what they need to do. For me with this, I think it's looking really good. It was one of those where I know I should wait for the reviews, but I know there's a possibility I won't.
Don't pull a Jonesy. Every now and then they'll be like, Jonesy misses out on this game and that game and that game. He just doesn't pick it up, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I bought 5 games today.
It does happen, but do you know what? I think I will wait. I'm going to have to, because it's just I'm off the back of Avengers. I think I'm going to have to just sort of like give it a be careful.
That's the thing, right? Off the back of Avengers, but funnily enough, going a little bit of future looking, it's looking pretty spicy for the Marvel franchise. But we'll get there. We'll get there, fellas.
Yeah.
Something that kind of took me by surprise was Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seemed like kind of like really intriguing to me. And it at one section at least, it gave off a very much of a Blade vibe.
Totally.
I was keen on that one. But then numbers were coming out of bodies, and I was like, Jonesy's gonna hate this.
Yeah. I thought it looked alright. I thought it looked quite fun. It's we already knew like it was coming out, right? I think we talked about it before.
Yeah.
But obviously it's nice to actually see how that's going to look and how it's going to play.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that worried me a little bit, in the sense of like Apex versus Warzone, in that Apex always seems a little bit more sparse to me. Like there are fewer people about, and it did seem a little like that like there weren't, or the interactions always one-on-one in those sort of fights that they showed off, which I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more like frenetic sort of battling, and it didn't seem to be like that. But it looked cool. Like some of the abilities are really cool, and some of the way that the gameplay seemed to look was wicked. So
yeah. One thing though, it looks cool. It's really piqued my interest. Probably never play it. Just one of those.
Yeah.
I said to Jamie, like, I'm never picking it up because I just would be terrible at it, and I just get owned by everyone else playing it. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Mm.
Plus,
Unfortunately.
I guess I'm not that into vampires, you know?
Yeah,
me neither, actually.
I'm not a 16-year-old girl, so.
Again, going back to what you said, though, Chris, unless Blade is involved somehow.
Yeah.
In which case, yes.
100%. We got to see more Deathloop, fellas, even though, like, review copies are out there in the wild already.
Like, so, I'm already sold on this game, like, based on the previous cycle. I'm picking this up day one.
Really?
Unless the reviews are a car crash, like I'm there.
Honestly, I don't think there will be. Not with Arcane.
Yeah, I don't think they will be. But
yeah. Anything could happen. But yeah, I just kind of feel like, God, we don't need to see more Deathloop. Like, it's
the trailer didn't need to explain as much as it tried to. Like I think Jonesy said when we were watching it, like people at this point have either made the effort to figure out what Deathloop is, or they don't care.
Yeah.
It's the last week before the game comes out. Just give up.
But also, like, do you remember when they first announced Deathloop? When they first announced it, do you remember the tone that they had for that kind of game and how it's just completely changed now?
I don't. Do you mean in the sense of like it was more serious and now it's much more sort of like cartoonish and
like now it just kind of feels like wacky 60s throwback kind of. But the first trailer was like it was like a dark and grungy kind of take on things. Like, go back and watch that first trailer. I think you'd be surprised at how different the tone is.
I need a refresher.
I was really surprised when I watched this particular one, because this particular trailer seemed to take like everything that they've kind of progressed with it in terms of tone and kind of like dialed it up to 11.
Well, mate, you haven't got long until it's out, so I guess it's all or nothing now. I guess for them, they're like, we've got to go for it.
Yeah,
I'm just double checking when it's released. It's actually released in 4 days on the 14th of September.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so
it's a bit of an odd time to kind of like, I don't know, fucking whatever.
Lots of games coming out.
Yeah, true. You know what else was kind of odd? Can I interest you in Kid A Amnesia exhibition, a Radiohead and Epic Games collaboration?
So at first, we talked about Alan Wake and Control. There was a bit of me that was like, "Is this something? Is this like Control related?"
I thought it was Control, 100%, with that red fucking
the tower thing.
And I was like, that's Control. But yeah, like fucking Radiohead and Kid A is like fucking a seminal album from when I was growing up. Like, okay.
I like what Epic are doing. Like, I like that they keep doing interesting new stuff. So I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, they do. Interesting is one way. Yeah, interesting. Sure.
No, yeah, I see. I know what Jersey like. Of all the ways that they had to spend the Fortnite money, they're doing it by giving interesting people money to spend at times.
Fair, yeah. And they give them free games, so you can never
that too
begrudge them for that. Hey, fellas, if you want Neo, the complete collection, it's available now on Epic Games.
That sounds like something I will own but never play. Thank you, Chris.
Exactly. You know what I do with Epic Games, and I swear to God, like I think I've done this for every single game that I've picked up from their free thing, is I get it or buy it, as it were, and I never install it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I've done that with nearly all of them as well.
Man, it's mental. But anyway, then there was some weird island game called, was it Chia Seeds?
Maybe Tachia or Tachia, I'm not really sure. Now, I've got to admit, I was slagging this off when it sort of first showed up. I was like, this looks like a Jamie game where he's going to be like, oh, it was lovely and it was great. And I had a lovely time with it. It had a lot of heart. But then she got in a pigeon and was flying around, and then got in a turtle, and suddenly I was completely turned around and I said, this actually is wicked. Like,
you were enamored.
I was charmed because I like the idea of being a little happy person on an island and being able to explore and experience things, in different ways. And I thought that looked pretty cool. And I like the art style as well.
Charm me.
Yeah, it looked pretty harmless, and there is still something unique and cool about inhabiting the bodies of animals. I don't know.
Remember when they did it in when Mario did it with the T-Rex, and I was like, "This is so cool! You get to be a T-Rex."
That was pretty sick.
Let's be real here. That was Cappy. Okay.
Sorry, Cappy did it. Yeah, Cappy did it.
Okay, thank you.
Apologize.
All right, fellas. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection coming out to PC. Includes Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy Remastered. Yeah. Cool. Jamie's Game of the Year.
I had a lot of time for Uncharted 4 at the time. I was saying to Jonesy, I don't know if I have the time or the energy to replay that game, considering one of the problems it had originally was a bit too long. But Lost Legacy is also a good game that not enough people played, probably because of the Uncharted 4 fatigue. But I think the Lost Legacy has some really cool ideas of its own, and is actually improved by the fact that it's a shorter, more self-contained experience. But really, this just felt like a very stealthy way of Sony putting another one of their major franchises on PC for the first time. By wrapping it up as a remaster that's also going to PS5. So
which is kind of interesting, right? Like you can think to yourself, okay, well, Last of Us Part 2, you know,
maybe anything's possible, right? Anything's possible.
It does kind of seem to. I will say
though that this is not sufficient as an answer for what the fucking Naughty Dog doing right now. I will not accept this. I wanted more.
I will not accept this. Well, we kind of speculated last week that we might be seeing the multiplayer.
I thought that was correct. I thought that was correct because not naming any names, Chris, because I don't want to jump out of the podcast. But some PlayStation studios seem to be capable of making 4 games at the same time. So I don't know what fucking Naughty Dog are doing.
Yeah.
Do something. What are you fucking writing, Neil? Stop living it up in Hollywood. You're not a fucking TV producer.
Yeah, Dr. Ackman. All right. But yeah, speaking of that, Jamie, then we got treated to an Insomniac logo. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. On board. Totally know where this is going. Spider-Man 2. You know?
Well, see, this was me going, it's not. It can't be Spider-Man. It can't be Spider-Man. What can this possibly be? It can't be Spider-Man.
It was the Insomniac logo and then immediately the Marvel logo.
Exactly.
Right?
It was. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, in a way, I know what Jonesy means, but for me, I kind of took it the other way, and I was like, oh, really? They're bringing in Spider-Man 2 at this point of the show? And I was really taken aback. And then it like starts out with the scene that's like a bar fight, and it says not actual gameplay, and I was like, oh, okay. Maybe Spider-Man 2 is a lot further along than a lot further away than I thought it kind of would be. And then, not to up myself, fellas, and build myself up, but as soon as I saw that fucking hairy arm, I knew what it was. I
knew
knew
what it was. With a little bit too much space on the right half of the frame.
Yeah, I knew exactly what it was, and who would have thought a fucking Wolverine game?
That is mad.
Made by Insomniac.
Wow.
I am so down. I am so fucking down.
I think, Jamie, you said at the time, like, how the hell did they keep that secret? But that was a great thing to keep under their hat.
I had not heard that leak in even like any shape or form, so fair play. And like, I know we're not supposed to get excited about 30-second long cinematics with a logo, but there's every reason to believe that this could be something incredibly cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what my subtle hope is? I don't know how this works with Marvel nowadays, and maybe there's an issue where if it doesn't align with what the kind of the cinematic universe side of things want to do, then it doesn't work out. But I do hope that they are allowed to go all X-Men Origins Wolverine game, not movie, on this, and make an 18 or at least a strong like 15 rated Wolverine game with a little bit of blood and guts, because the last time a developer was allowed to go ham with Wolverine, they actually made a good superhero game in the pre-Arkham days. So, I'm down.
It'd be cool, man. It would be so cool. My only worry is like, when is this fucking thing going to come out? If you think about when Insomniac announced Spider-Man on the PS4 and how long that took to come out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing we'll get to in a bit.
And they showed loads more than what they showed in this.
Yeah, so you got to imagine it's like a Starfield and Elder Scrolls kind of situation, right? Where it's like, we know one has to come out before the other, and even the one we know about is not that close.
Yeah.
So we're looking this side of 2026, or do you think we're looking at like? Is it going to be 2025? That's what I'm really asking. Or do you think it's going to be longer than that?
I think it might be 2024, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's going on, but all I will say is that they did a pretty impressive job when it came to getting Spider-Man out full 2018, right? Or full 20... Was it 2018? Yes,
I think it was 2018, yeah.
Then get Miles Morales out full 2020, so that's 2 years, and still have Ratchet and Clank ready in spring or / summer 2021. So, like, again, I don't know what the different teams are there, and there probably is, weirdly enough, a Ratchet and Clank in some form of pre-production and Insomniac as well. So, maybe we shouldn't be counting our chickens just yet, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Exciting times, though.
Oh, man. Like honestly, watching this, I was like fucking goosebumps on my fucking arms and shit, and just getting like shivers. It's like, hell yeah. Fucking feeling it start tingling up here, going all the way down here, and then just giving me like the hard one. You've heard of Hot Ones, fellas. This is our new YouTube show called Hard Ones.
Banned before it even started.
Okay, something that like super seriously interests me in a way that a lot of people probably don't realize is Gran Turismo 7. Like, I don't know what it is about that series, but it just fucking tickles me so nicely. And that trailer was really cool. Like, started off with some like operatic music, and then just kind of went into this fucking great like pumping track afterwards, just showing off a lot of the features, a lot of the kind of like the gameplay stuff that you would come to expect of it, while not actually telling you how shit kind of works. But yeah, I'm liking it, man. From the range of cars that they got, to the fucking graphical fidelity, to just the attention to detail. That's what you come to expect from a Gran Turismo title, and I'm honestly on board for it.
Yeah.
It looks fine. Like if you're into Gran Turismo, it's not something which really is appeals to me like that much.
I've always been into it a lot more than I've been. Oh, hold on, there we go. Than I have been to, say, Forza Horizon. Just Forza in general, not Horizon.
I think that's the weird thing. Is like you said, Chris, is exactly what you expect from a Gran Turismo game in a good way.
Yeah,
and I think it made me
better than Gran Turismo Sport, because Gran Turismo Sport was a weird one.
I mean, yeah. But it also, the trailer made me realize that I don't know how much I want a Gran Turismo game right now, because it just like, it is what it is, and they make cars look good and they make cars drive good, but it does feel a little bit sterile.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know. But then a really sharp, beautiful looking driving game on the PS5, like maybe that will be too hard to resist. We'll see.
Yeah. I kind of like the sterile nature of Gran Turismo series in a way. Just because it's like, it's almost like an immersive sim, but as a racing game. Do you know what I mean?
You just want to immerse yourself in the cars and look at them and see how good they look, and drive
I don't want like Need for Speed, fucking Hotline Miami, whatever it was fucking called, where I got to watch these dudes in Miami kind of like fucking all these neon colors and shit. It's just I just want a fucking pure technical fucking racing game, please.
You want to get your different driver's licenses doing the different challenges.
I really do, buddy. You know, I'll never forget fucking GTA, Gran Turismo. What was fucking A-Spec? Oh,
GT3.
Oh, GT3. A-Spec. What a game. What a game. But anyway, fellas, rounding it all off. Thank goodness, because it's been a long fucking podcast.
Hang on, no, there's two more, right?
Yeah, two.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the two big boys that kind of really fucking rounded off the whole fucking thing. Was because, we saw the Insomniac logo and we're like, right, okay, sure. But what about Spider-Man 2? That's the big question. Well, we did get to see some Spider-Man 2. We got to see some action on Spider-Man 2. I don't know if it was like actual gameplay. I don't think it was specified. It certainly looked good enough to be a cinematic. But with a nice voiceover, and I'd be keen to know if you guys have any inkling of who the voiceover was of. How much of a fucking comic nerd when it comes to Spider-Man?
No idea at all.
Interesting.
I don't know, because like at first I was confused because there was some like electricity shit going on, and I think I said out loud like, "Oh, is that some Electro stuff?" Then I couldn't remember if Electro was one of the characters who was kind of like turned into a bit of a gimp in the first one, where he's kind of like these weak dudes that are so weak you have to fight two of them at a time.
Yeah.
And then do you know what? It felt like 1 second I was trying to figure out whose voice it was, and then without jumping the gun, the next second you were hearing someone else's voice.
Yeah.
That was more immediately recognizable.
Yeah. So I'm pretty certain. I would say with like 98 to 99%
Can I guess?
accuracy. Yes, can I guess?
Lizard?
No.
Okay, never mind then.
Hell no, buddy. Craven the Hunter.
Oh, interesting. I don't know who that is.
Me either.
Hell yeah. Purely from his accent and from what he was saying about like, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, pretty fucking cool. We got to see Miles Morales and Peter Parker kind of working in tandem, which could, kind of hint at some co-op gameplay, which would be so fucking cool.
We were trying to think about how that would work because is it going to be co-op or is it going to be that you can pick one or the other of them? Is it going to be that you play as like Miles Morales for some of it, Peter Parker for some more of it?
But that's what we were thinking, right?
Idea.
That's what we're thinking. I don't think co-op ever kind of entered into our minds, but now that I see this trailer,
they've confirmed it's a single player adventure.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
since
the
then.
team. Well, fuck me then. It would have been cool though. Would have been really fucking cool.
Mate, they absolutely nailed it with the end though, because with the snarling in the shadows, like Venom popped out. That was sick.
Nice little switcheroo, right? Because this you kind of think, oh, okay, Craven's going to come out there, and then it's just fucking stayed black for a while, and then you heard Venom, and then you got a shot of Venom as well. You're like,
that was so good.
Yeah.
Fucking
and of course, the thing that's even cool about this is it's not Venom out of nowhere, but the fact that now, technically, across 2 games, they've established Venom's place and origin within their take on the universe, and that kind of makes it even sweeter.
Hell yeah. Oh, man, I'm hyped. And that's coming out 2023. I hope you guys are ready for the long wait.
Let's all try not to die before then.
and it's going to be like December 2023.
Oh, don't say that.
It is going to be.
Probably, yeah.
Fucking hell.
But I can sort of I can tell myself that 2023 is not too far away if I'm just thinking about January 2023. If I have to think about December 2023, then we'll start to be...
Do you know what I read today, which made me absolutely fucking die inside, and I don't think I've recovered, and I'm actually a zombie. All right.
Go on.
The year 2050 is closer to us than the year 1993.
Oh God, that's horrible. Yeah, I don't like that.
I just had one. I just had one of those. Now you're making me think about it all. Do you know what sucks about Spider-Man 2?
Go on.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing it in my 30s.
There's nothing wrong with being in your 30s. This is the problem.
Thank God, I'm not going to be in my 40s.
I was just going to say, let's be serious. No. We're probably going to be playing Wolverine in our 40s. So,
God, yeah, Jesus.
Oh dear.
And we'll still be making this podcast because, like, our viewership is giving steady decline, fellas. So by that point, we'll be like 2 people watching. It'll be like Peaswad and fucking ASP64, and we'll just do it for them,
Yeah,
like,
do it for us.
Like the Homer Simpson meme with like "do it for her," with the fucking Maggie. Yeah. But anyway, then fellas, like as cool and as hype as Spider-Man was, they didn't kind of like show off a lot, right? It was more like, hey, this is Spider-Man 2. This is what we're fucking doing, and it's like, yeah, cool, on board. Looks fucking cool. It's in good hands. Not worried about it whatsoever. But now, fellas, what we all knew was coming. It was fucking God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I don't think between the 3 of us there was any dispute that this like would not be there. Like it had to.
It had to.
I was trying to stress you out by suggesting it might not be, but yeah, no, it had to be there. Of course, it did.
It had to be, man. It would have been mental if it wasn't. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok looks fucking cool. Atreus has grown up. He rides a fucking elk as one of his powers now, which is pretty cool.
His voice is more adolescent than before.
Yeah. He's definitely a teenager. What's her name? Freya is still kind of like hunting you down. Man, it's just like the game looks so fucking gorgeous.
I mean, I was kind of torn with the trailer though, because I know this is a sequel and it's a continuation of a story, and so it's so much of a known quantity. I kind of wanted a little bit more, what'd you say, like bombast. I want it to be a bit more like kind of incredible, kind of when we saw the trailer for God of War the first time round.
Yeah.
But
I know what you mean.
went,
You almost want to see because God of War is always about like, well, not always, but it's always got a segment where it's like a sense of scale and this like massive battle kind of thing, which you never really kind of saw with this.
The original. Sorry, go on. I was going to say they kind of went straight for the. So if you were the original trailer for God of War, it was like Kratos and Atreus, I think, were in like a small environment, and there was like a big ogre with a log over his head, and it was incredible. But it was actually very contained. Whereas this was, they kind of had to, I suppose, do the thing where they sort of showed off loads of enemies, loads of locations, lush environments, and there was just a lot. We got to see Thor, we got to see some of the other gods, we got to see some of the like crazy environments in the boat again, the little head man. Like there was a lot in this trailer. Like it was packed.
Mimir.
Which I'm really glad for. I'm happy to see all of that stuff, but I wanted them to just build the tension a little more with showing something else. I
think the difference is, and this is where it actually gets encouraging, is that first trailer of the God of War, what was it, 2018 God of War? That was a vertical slice.
Right.
And the game technically wasn't made, right? Whereas this quite clearly is shots and scenes and gameplay from the actual game.
Definitely seems to be, for sure, yeah.
So it's like a lot further along than the other trailer was at that point.
Yeah.
Which we would hope, because fucking hell,
We have to guess though, because they didn't give us any sort of release date, so not even a year.
I don't know what the play is behind it not being. The only thing I can think of is that it's probably still 2022, but they don't know when, and so why bother saying?
Yeah,
right.
To learn the lesson from Horizon, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think talking about sort of like trailers and sort of like bombast and scale, I think one of the things that's interesting is obviously we talked about the original sort of like vertical slice gameplay demo, which, like we said, we ended Jonesy with the big sort of like the big troll who holds the log and kind of stuff like that. And I think what's interesting though is if you go back and watch the other God of War trailers that released after that, the more traditional trailers that started to expand and bring in other elements,
like story trailers and stuff.
Exactly. They all sort of like held their punches a little bit on some of the more spectacular moments that we knew we would end up getting. I think at best they teased the dragon boss fight, which, like in the grand scheme of the game, like wasn't even necessarily that memorable.
Yeah.
And the other thing that God of War was very good at, compared to the original trilogy, is while the original trilogy would straight up say, here's a boss fight against a guy who's 200 times taller than you, God of War 2018 is very good at saying, here's a boss fight against a guy that's the same size of you, but the places this boss fight goes and the way it works in and around the environment will blow your mind. And the first time you walk out that house and you fight Boulder, and you're thrown back over the house and into the woods the other side, and there's the bit where you punch him inside of the cliff, and then you're like the whole cliff like gets split in two and collapse. Like the first time you experience that, you're like, that's how they're doing their big cinematic, bombastic God of War moments in this new kind of way of doing it. And I think the other thing that was telltale about how they're still pulling their punches intentionally is we know that Thor has been confirmed to be one of the two main antagonists of this game, and the only shot we got of him was the shot that was at the end of the first God of War, which is of Mjolnir. We don't know what Thor looks like. We've had his voice actor confirmed. We don't know what he looks like. So I'm expecting some big Thor moments. We know that Asgard is a realm you can now visit, or you will visit at some point in the story.
Yeah.
Obviously, Loki.
All 9 realms, right?
All 9 realms, yeah. And obviously, Atreus' journey of self-discovery is reaching. I think that the reveal at the end of God of War means Atreus' journey actually becomes more interesting in this game than it was in the first one.
For sure,
where, like, the idea of the first one of like, oh, am I a god? Am I, like, some of that stuff was like open the door to some of the belligerence in his behavior that people didn't actually like. But I think now we're getting a slightly older Atreus who's more driven in his search for who he is and what role he plays. And the idea of like characters like Thor and Odin being worked into that as we're visiting realms, as I said, including Asgard, that's so fucking hype.
Oh, dude, what about fucking bringing Tyr into the whole thing?
Yeah, I don't really know who Tyr is. I know that he's the Norse god of war.
Yeah, he's the Norse god of war. Yeah,
I know he's the Norse Kratos, but like, I don't know what that means for the game. Obviously, they made a big deal out of it. But
when he stands up, I mean, Kratos is a big dude, and then Tyr stands up, and he's like fucking head and shoulders above. It's like, oh yeah.
Weirdly enough, I found out that the young girl at the end, who gets the line at the end, I forget what she says. It turns out she's a giant as well, I believe.
Right.
She's one of the last giants as well. So
yeah,
I don't know what
she says like all your questions will be answered, sort of, or something like that.
Yeah, which is basically their way of saying you'll find out the release date when you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, go on, Jamie.
I was going to see, did you see that Corey is confirmed not directing?
I did not see this. I guess that was on the little kind of thing after the showcase.
Indeed, yes.
So
it's a guy called Eric something or other who has worked on every single God of War in some capacity since the very first one, including even the portable ones.
Right, okay.
So definitely a God of War OG and someone who's familiar with it. It's just interesting that basically if you watch that interview, Corey essentially makes it very clear, as rumors have suggested in the past, that he and Sony Santa Monica are working on other things behind the scenes that will be shown at some point in time. So I guess that's confirmation.
Which is interesting in its own right, but I can't help but feel just a little bit disappointed in that. I mean, who's to say that it's going to make any difference to us as players? But I know that like apart from being a fucking stellar looking game and a stellar playing game, the story of God of War 2018 really fucking resonated with me. Because at the time of my life, like my wife was pregnant with my son, and that called up, the worry about like how I'm going to be as a father, what my son's going to be like, kind of like played out as I was playing that game. And just, it's not necessarily to say that it's like a Cory Barlog kind of thing, but, he obviously was taking that aspect of his life and funneling it into the game. And I just wonder if I wouldn't like it to go back to like how previous God of Wars were. We'll put it that way.
It's weird. It is a weird one because you sort of say like you can take Cory Barlog off of it, and then they're going to put on a God of War OG who's worked on all of them, like as Jamie just said from the first one. Like that doesn't fill me with hope that it's going to be as good as God of War 2018. If anything, it does kind of. Like I talk as a fan of the original trilogy. I thought they were fantastic, but I did really like the new take. But yeah, I don't know. I found that a bit weird. I'm sure that he's working on something great, but it's a little bit of a shame that he's not on Ragnarok.
But hey, like the point is that I'm sure they had a plan after God of War 2018 of what God of War Ragnarok would be. Clearly,
you'd hope so, right?
If you think about the Thor reveal in that game, you're like, yeah, okay, you know your story, you know how it's going to be, how it's going to kind of pan out. Obviously, revisions and what have you, that's all fine. So I'm sure we've got nothing to worry about, but it does kind of just give me a little bit of pause for thought.
Yeah, I think it's fair to be cautious, but it's still hard not to be excited, especially when you just think about it like from a sheer like development perspective and sort of like I was texting someone earlier and they're saying like how exciting it is to go into a game kind of like with Spiderman, right? Which is that like the fundamentals are done. Like that combat doesn't. I played that game to the point of like platinum because I didn't want to stop killing people, because it felt so good.
Yeah,
and like a return to that, expand on that a little bit, switch a few things up. Obviously, like we don't get the benefit of like the Chains of Olympus moment because some of that stuff like this is probably going to be a whole game of just the Chains and Leviathan, but like there's still so much fundamental work that's done there. It's such a cool platform to build off.
I was kind of worried that they kind of flipped it. Because when I started watching it, I was like, and maybe it's just because I missed it, but up to a certain point, I was like, oh, fuck. I've only seen him use the Chains of Olympus. I haven't seen him use the Leviathan axe.
Right.
And I was like,
which would have sucked. Imagine if you didn't get to use the Leviathan in the new.
I'll put it out there. Leviathan axe over Chains of Olympus. I don't care. Don't at me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The Leviathan axe is so fucking cool, dude.
They made it very cool. Did you see the guy who
Yeah.
was partly responsible for the sort of like throw and callback of
Yeah,
Leviathan?
the engineering of it all and
Yeah,
programming, whatever.
He passed away.
Yeah.
Like last week.
Fucking
Very sad.
God of War Ragnarok 6 out of 10 game because of all the things that are happening. So let's just prepare yourselves now. Nah. I don't know.
Alana Pierce's shit writing, gone woke, too many female characters, Leviathan being called back doesn't feel good anymore. 6 out of 10. Worse than Donda.
Well, that's hanging on the box. Worse than Donda.
Worse than Donda. Well, it's either going to be worse than Donda or I Come. So.
I come.
Oh, God. And that brings us, I guess, to our keyword for the end of, a thoroughly enjoyable podcast. It's just I Come.
I come.
I just want to see you guys coming all over our comment section, please.
It's my favorite spot to go to for breakfast when I'm in America. Fuck Denny's. I'm team I come.
I Come.
I come.
International Chapel. Oh,
go on. Two more.
Under the Moon.
International Chapel Under the Moon. Yeah.
I come. Or it'd be I cut them, but yeah, sometimes the T you don't really pop it in the acronym.
Yeah,
you can get away
exactly.
with it.
Yeah, no one's going to begrudge you that. You're safe.
Fellas, what a fucking PlayStation show. Like sometimes the PlayStation showcases that they have were like, but this one fucking blew me away. I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, it was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me feel a little bit sorry for Microsoft because like when they a couple of months ago when they had their turn, like I really think they tried. I think the position that Microsoft is in though compared to PlayStation is that PlayStation could come out and say Insomniac are making a Wolverine game, Sony's Santa Monica are making the next God of War, and like that, with all due respect, for the time being, hits different to 343 are making another Halo game, or Arcane are making a 4-player co-op thing where you shoot vampires. Those are cool, but they just hit different.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is for now.
I agree. All right, fellas. Well, I mean, unless there's anything else, I'd really like to get to bed and tell these lovely people that I love them. Yeah?
Nothing else from me, but I love them too, for what it's worth. Thank you for making it this far.
They're all right.
Wow. On that fucking stinker.
Jonesy does not come.
Yeah, Jonesy does not come. Pity, but maybe next week. And with that, thank you very much. I won't see you next week, but these two jokers will. See ya.
See ya.